amazed. Thank you. You would be absolutely amazed. There is so much biblical truth about business in the Bible, it will blow your mind. And if you ever studied the Bible from a business perspective, you would really be amazed what principles that are involved there. Huh? Testing 1, 2, testing 1, 2, testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right. Testing. Okay. Still a little low. Test. That's better. Okay. Test. Okay. Yeah. Save that a little bit of that voice. Okay. All right. My wife was supposed to sing a number too. Let's begin with prayer as we begin this afternoon. Let us bow our heads. Father in heaven, we thank you for we understand that there will be a remnant of the remnant. Not everybody is going to be saved. There are going to be a lot of people lost. And Lord, in recognition of that, today, this core group that we have today, Lord, thank you for them coming back this afternoon. I pray that blessings untold will come their way. And so hopefully their cup is so full that when others bump into them, some of it will spill on others and be able to bless them as well from what you have placed inside of them and now begin to spill over into others as well. Pressed down, shaken together. And Lord, we just thank you for all of what you have done and all of what you will continue to do when we place our life carefully in your hands. In Jesus' name we thank you. Amen. So, the entrepreneur journey is often a very risky journey for a lot of people. And those of you who have been entrepreneurs, you know what that's like. Sometimes you have a great idea, and it seems to work for a little bit, and then all of a sudden it fails. 80% of the businesses in this country fail in the first 5 years of business. And then if that's not enough, the next 5 years, 80% of that 20% fail in the next 5 years from there. So the question is, why is there so much business failure that is in this country? And most of it is because of information that people actually do not receive. In fact, we have a mantra what we call ignorance on fire. Ignorance on fire. What do we mean when we say ignorance on fire? Ignorance on fire. I have a great idea. I'm passionate about it. I'm ready to go. I'm going to do whatever it takes. I'm going to stay up late hours and press the mark, and I'm going to get it done. We're going to do it. So much so that you are out of bounds with strategies, methodologies, structure of the business, commingling of personal and business expenses and things of that nature, and you have no idea what you have just gotten into. You have an idea that you're in business, and hooray, I'm in business. I got my shingle out here on the outside of the building. Look at me, y'all. I'm in business. Yeah, you got started, but you're not really in business yet because the Grim Reaper is coming. The Grim Reaper is coming your way. If it hasn't got there to your household yet, don't worry. Keep praying, keep waiting. It's on its way. And so taxes and some other things like that, when you're not structured properly in your entrepreneurial pursuit, you end up in situations where you have to fold and close the doors, lock the doors, and walk away before the landlord locks you out and takes your stuff. Ever been through that? Anybody ever been through that? You started a business and it didn't go well. You thought it was as well as you thought and it failed. Anybody? Come on now, raise your hand. You've been through business. Come on, y'all. You've been through business. You had some business failure. Lesson learned, y'all. Lesson learned. Sometimes you learn on the backs of your own failures. If you don't learn nothing else, you learn what not to do. So you didn't lose. You just learned something, another way not to do something. I ain't going to do that no more. Okay? I'm sure not going to do that no more. And it happens. But hopefully and prayerfully, you have learned enough about it so that you don't have to repeat the same mistake again. And therein lies what happens when you're not structured properly. What I'm going to talk to you today about is from temple to treasure, how do you measure? How do you measure your success, not only in your personal life, but your personal life, believe it or not, affects your business life. Because whoever you are and whatever you're becoming, guess what? That's also who you are and what you're becoming in business as well. And not just in your personal business, but in God's business. We have an obligation to our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, our Maker, to do the right things about ourselves personally, and then ultimately about the business that He gives us the talents and the gifts to be able to fulfill in the care that He has given to us. Now, you've all heard the story about the one that has 2 talents and the one that had 5 talents in the Bible, and then the one that had the 1 talent. And He gave the one who had 5 talents, doubled his to 10, and the one who had the 2 talents doubled theirs to 4. But the one who had the 1 talent buried it and waited because of fear of not knowing the potential outcome of what was going to take place afterwards. And so he feared that when the landlord came back or the owner came back, that he would, said that he was a hard man. He even accused him of being a hard man. Not for his slothfulness of what he didn't do with the 1 talent that God gave him, but this is the type of personality that tends to blame people for stuff they did, not taking personal responsibility for what they have not done. And how many of you have seen that in business? You ever seen that in business? You ever seen that in your children? You ever seen that in you? Okay? Where you tended to blame something else rather than take responsibility yourself for what it is that didn't go right. I said earlier in the message, contributing circumstances versus determining circumstances. I don't have any control of a person running into the back of me when I'm sitting at the light and crash into the back of me. I don't have control of that, all right? But I do have control of when I get out the car and drag him out the car and beat him half crazy. I do have control of that. Now, I got some control of that, you know what I'm saying? I mean, that's determining circumstance. I determined that I don't like the way you hit and ran in my new car, and now I'm going to bust you upside your head for it. After I check and see, are you okay? The airbag didn't bust you in the head? Well, that's too bad, because I'm going to bust you in your head. You shouldn't have ran into the back of me. That's a determining circumstance. Now, I haven't done that, y'all. I'm just using that as an example, all right? Don't get it twisted, okay? I've never done that before, all right? But I'm just saying to you, that's a determining circumstance that I can determine that I'm going to do something about what happened. So, but I have a choice. So I can say, oh, sir, are you okay? Ma'am, are you okay? Is everything all right? Look, and he explains that, hey, man, I attempted to hit the brake, but I hit the gas and I ran into you. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I know. Well, I'm glad you're okay. I'm okay, too. Damage to the car, and then we just call the police and we give the report and everything like that, and everything is good. Everybody goes home. Or I can come in there and I can provocate the guy and say, why'd you hit me? And all of this. That's a determining circumstance. I'm now taking my emotions to another level. That's a determining circumstance. And then he just so happens to pull off a gun and shoot me. My life is over with because the determination that I had to tell him how wrong he was for running into the back of me led to my death. Now I have a widowed wife, kids that will grow, grandkids will grow up without a father, grandfather. How stupid of me to have done that. That's called temperament. That's called temperance. We're talking about stewardship today, right? Self-control, losing self-control. The passion that I have, some of us have an angry, easily angered disposition. We get upset very easy. And you know it because of your temper and your temperament. Sometimes the order of your birth. Sometimes the month that you were born in. A certain type of thing we don't like to call a sign. But anyway, it's a sign. It's a sign that your personality is kind of whacked. And you need a lot of Jesus to control who you really are. Anybody testify? Any spouses can testify? Yeah, you need a whole, sister, you need a whole lot of Jesus to control that demon and that monster inside of that soul right there. You need some serious Jesus to help you control what that is inside of you, right? Okay? All right? So, coming from a vantage point of people who hate to lose, and I hated to lose. When I was a kid, I hated to lose. I don't care if it was a game of marbles. I wanted to win. Okay? All right? And even when I was a child, my mom told me one story one time. She says that I was playing with my blocks and stuff. I was in about 2.5, 3 years old. And the kids came over, and they wanted to play with my blocks. And I'm like, how dare you play with my blocks? What's wrong with you? Don't you see that these blocks are laying around me? I've built a nice little city here with my blocks, and you got the nerve to come in and play demolition crew? Are you kidding me? You're getting ready to get a block upside your head. Stop it. Leave my blocks alone. Anyway, and so it's amazing how sometimes those childhood quirks and personality development things in a lot of us carries over to our young adult life and our adult life of who we are, and who we become as persons. Now, I wasn't always saved. Okay, I told you the story in Sabbath school this morning, how God, saved my life and saved my soul. And it made a huge difference in how I deal with people and how I deal with life. I grew up with 5 brothers, and, it was war in the home. But we were great friends. But we would fight when we had to. But we were great friends, though. We all shake hands about it afterwards and say, I'm sorry. Huh? No, my sister, she finally came at the later end, and my mom regretted every bit of it. As long as she was having sons, there was only going to be one queen in the house. The day we had a girl, the kingdom was divided. She had to share everything, underwear and bras and all the other personal stuff. You know what it's talking about. Ladies, y'all know. Y'all got who got a daughter in here. Y'all know what I'm talking about. You got a daughter that's half grown as you and the same size as you. She's going to wear everything you got. Ain't nothing sacred no more. In your room all the time. Wear everything you got. Anyway, sons, we kind of get away with that. With boys, we kind of get away with that. No, bro. It's very territorial. Those are my socks and my socks only. And those are my underwear only. And my whatever, okay? All right? So, boys, we, different. But so my mom was the only queen for a while. When my sister was born, that sister right there, who now has 12 kids, that sister right there is a piece of work. I don't mind publicly saying it. That sister right there, you don't want to mess with that sister. That sister will fight you to the death, male or female. I never will forget when a repo guy came one morning to repo her car. I got to tell this story. And I'm going to get right back on point. So the repo guy came to take her car in the morning. And so he knocked on the door, and then he went out there. He didn't hear nothing right away, and he went out there and jacked the car up. And so she heard it, and she came out there and jacked it up and told the guy, says, look, you're going to have to put my car down. He says, because I got to take my kids to school. He said, ma'am, I'm here to get the car. And he says, no, what you hear is to find your jaw on the ground. You can put that car down, or I'm going to body slam you. And so the repo guy said, what? He said, I did not stutter. You heard me. If you touch the car, you don't put the car down, I'm going to body slam you, and I'm going to put the car down myself. Now, you going to put the car down or what? And the guy kept he-homing around and everything like that. I'm not putting the car down, and I'm taking this car, and you're behind on your bill and everything like that. And before he knew it, he got socked in the jaw, and she lifted him up and body slammed him. He's a pretty big dude. I felt really sorry for the guy. And so she slammed him, got her car down, jacked her own car down, and he called for backup at that point. His other friend, manager guy, came along, pulled up his tow truck, and he said, man, didn't the woman tell you to leave her alone, man? Can't you see he's taking the kids to school? He said, you come on back to the office, man. I'm going to tell everybody you got body slammed by a woman. He says, get in this car, man, and leave that woman alone. Oh, my goodness. This sister was a piece of work. But anyway, she's still a piece of work. But pray for my sister. So growing up in a big family, we had each other. Friends, very close friends. All my brothers to this day were very close friends. I lost one of my brothers about 26 years ago that was related to something that she did, trying to save her soul, and he lost his life in the process. The fact of the matter is that was a hole in all of our hearts that we could not just quite overcome. But family drama, y'all, is one thing. What you don't want with sibling drama is that when it comes to a state, you think you know your brothers and sisters, okay? You let there be some money and property involved. What Mama Nam left y'all, and what Daddy Nam left y'all, and what Grandma left y'all, and Great-Grandma left y'all, let there be some money and some property involved. And I don't care, those tears dry up real quickly. Okay? All right? Can anybody testify? Those tears dry up very quickly. And next thing you know, somebody, while y'all at the funeral and at the hanging out at the gravesite and, reminiscing and shedding a few tears and hugs and kisses and all that kind of stuff, somebody is laying like a vulture back at the crib taking china out the house. Getting mama's bedroom set. Okay, while they're at the funeral. They didn't go to the funeral. Y'all go on. I'm going to stay here and, I'll just take care of stuff. Next thing you know, all the silverware is gone and everything just been cleaned out. They didn't care if they were in the wheel or not. They just cleaned it out. Mama promised me this 30 years ago. Okay? And so they just cleared it all out. And there it was. It was done. It was a done deal. How you going to take it back? Because it's in the possession now. What they say, that's 9/10 of the law. You're going to have a serious fight on your head. You're going to go to your house and unlock your door and go in there and take some silverware out there. Are you kidding me? You ain't going to do that. Huh? None of these people are Christians, right? Yeah. Those are the worst kind. It's Christian folk. You want to see somebody's true religion? True religion began at home. You let there be some property involved and some money involved. Mama left us what? $500,000 in her 401k. And who's the beneficiary? Oh, okay, all right. Yeah, we're going to look into that. Okay? Now, when you have a will, your will is contestable. Ever and always, y'all, is contestable. Even when the lawyer has the audacity to put a clause in there sometimes that says, he who contests the will is out of the will. So if you come there to the court with some drama, bye-bye for you. You one less person we got to count in the distribution. Come with some drama if you want to. All right? We had to do that with my mom's will. We did it with my mom's will. Before I knew anything about trust, my mom had a will when she passed, and we made sure that it was the language that was necessary and all that. But still, y'all, regrettably, incredibly, I wish that we had the trust set up. But I'm just going to share with you that when you don't have a will, the lawyers and the judges will have something called intestate. Anybody know what intestate means? You don't have nothing. You don't have a will. You don't have a living trust. You don't have anything. So what that means is, in order for something to be distributed to you or given to you, that means that you're going to have to go to probate court anyway. Only this time on the judge's terms and the lawyer involved with the case terms, not your terms. So now they're going to have to assign an administrator over the will. And when they sign an administrator over the will, which you don't have, but over the estate, let me add, then that means that engagement is going to mean that you're going to have to go by their rules in their timing. You have a question, go ahead. Do we have a pastor? We need a roving mic, but anyway, I'll let you use mine. Go ahead.
Okay, if if your parent left a will and they left an executor, how much power does the executor have and the responsibility that the executor, they don't do the dividing, or they are responsible to do the dividing between the siblings?
Okay, very good question. She asked the question, if when they do have a will and they leave an executor in power. So two things you have with a will. Number one, while the person is living, you have what is called power of attorney. Okay, while the person is living. The moment the person dies, the power of attorney and medical power of attorney dies with them. It ceases to exist. And now it kicks in the executive of the will, the executress of the will. The executress of the will is the person who has been assigned to be able to equitably distribute, fairly distribute the assets of the person who passed away, according to the assignment that's in the will. Now, when you don't have a will and there's been no executress assigned to the case, then the judge has to assign an administrator over the estate, someone who is considered to be responsible. But what if y'all don't get along? What if there's a contention between, Mama wanted me to be the administrator? No, Mama wanted me to be the administrator. Well, no, Mama wanted me to be the administrator. Okay, all right. Did you hear what I said? I said that Mama wanted me to be the administrator. I'm the big brother, and I run this, right? Huh? Oh, I'm sorry, brother. I just had to get rough with you. But y'all understand the point, right? Strong-arming each other, jockeying for position. We got a Cain and Abel circumstance. All right, your question. Go ahead. Use the mic. Use the mic.
Can one of your siblings be the executor?
Can one of the siblings be the executive? Of course.
Okay.
But it has to be an agreement. You understand? The other siblings have to agree that that person is the spokesperson. They have to allow that person to be the spokesperson, or there's contention.
So Mama can't make it before she go?
Mama can make it before she goes. Yes, she can assign an executor of the will, but oftentimes when there's no will or anything like that, nobody knows what Mama wanted to do. You see what I mean? Or Daddy. They don't know what you wanted to do. They don't know their final wishes. A will is your final wishes of what you want to happen and take place. And if there's not there, then guess what? It's a guessing game, and it's a power struggle of who gets what, when, where, and how, and who runs what and who runs nothing. Like, for example, running your mouth, and you ain't taking action. You do a lot of talk, but ain't nothing getting done. That's got to stop. Somebody's got to take some responsibility on what's happening. Because if you don't, then the lawyer is going to take y'all all to the cleaners. They're going to take you there anyway, but they're going to really take you to the cleaners when there's contention. You know why? Because the longer y'all are arguing, the longer and higher the fees of going back and forth to court, probate court, and the fees and the retainer fees just get higher and higher. And they don't care. You can stretch it out for a whole year or two. And guess what? You can stretch it out to the time that one of them get ready to retire in that law firm. And guess what they're going to do? They will sell it to their friend, the next lawyer or law firm, sell the case to the next friend, and they'll pay them 15% or 20% or whatever. But you can best believe that when they go after you, they're going for the 33%. It's a business deal at that point. And you think if I don't pay this lawyer friend of mine for your estate, you best believe I'm going to get my money back for 33%. Here's 15% that I paid him for, and the additional 18% that is owed to me from that case. All right, Pastor, I saw your hand. Go ahead, and then your hand. Go ahead. You got the mic. Go ahead.
I'd like to make a comment because it's something that I actually am in right now, and I'm from Louisiana, so we know the laws are quite different.
Quite different.
Than anywhere else. My dad actually did a will. My dad actually did 3 wills.
Okay.
The final will is, quote unquote, my sister and my baby brother were the executors.
Mm-hmm.
And my sister came and said, I'm the executor, and I'm going to do what I want. So, of course, because I'm just saying how Louisiana law is. So my brother had to go and get a attorney to do the probate. So, and we had, and quote unquote, like you said, when you're dealing with attorneys or judges, they will make that decision whether or not they'll sign off on it. Well, because like you say, when you pray and you hear what the Lord has to say, my husband and I had to go back to Lafayette, because that's where I'm from, Lafayette, Louisiana.
All right.
We sat before the attorney. We got everything taken care of that day. And we told him, you have to be the administrator because of the way, because we have real estate and all this other stuff. And in Louisiana, it's different. You can have a will all day long. And my sister tried to go to the will and get money from one of the bank accounts. And they're like, wills mean nothing. You have to have the succession papers, and the attorney or someone from his office has to go.
Yes.
So this is in Louisiana.
That is correct. And let me tell you something. And here's the caveat. Don't you ever, ever kid yourself in this one thing. Just because you have been assigned administrator of the will does not mean you are running anything. The attorney is the trustee of that estate. They make sure of it in the paperwork. Even in administrative engagement, they make sure that they're in charge of the paperwork and everything like that. And you can best believe that when you think you're in charge, you ain't running nothing but your mouth. Okay? Because they're going to pencil whip you without whooping you. You don't be whipped. You whip before you can get to the court. You already got whooped. You got holes. You like Swiss cheese walking up out of it. You got so many holes in you. They don't already roach you out, rode around you, through you, behind you, over your head with legalese of information and everything like that. And you have no idea what's going on with the legal language that looks like word salad with no salad dressing. What, Pastor, go ahead.
So I want to share this if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was at a particular church before coming here. A woman left some property to the church. She had finances. She had property. That property stayed in limbo for 26 years. And
Ouch.
all the property that she had to give to people, they never got.
Wow.
So this is very timely, very profound. And just so happened by the grace of God, when me and Nicole arrived at the former church, because of connections, we was able to get the property for the church. But all those other people who had property, and we're not talking about in Houston, if you're familiar with the 3rd Ward area,
Yes, I am.
that property is very expensive.
Yes.
And none of those people on that will got the property that they were willed to. None of them, except for the church.
Okay.
So this is very, very, very important that we understand. For those who want to leave stuff to the church, for those who want to do this, please pay attention, because this is by grace of God that we was able to get that property. But once again, let me reiterate, everybody else on that will, 26 people, did not get their property.
And 26 years later. So by the end, people died off, people died from the will. And this happens in wealth transfer. A lot of us have had family members, grandparents and great-grandparents who had 20 acres, 30 acres, 40, 100 acres, thousands of acres. And guess what? Because they didn't have the knowledge of wills and trust and things like that, it went and passed on to the heirs of the family. And so you have what is called heirs property. And guess what? When a savvy person gets wind that there's heirs properties available, and the way to get wind of it is that nobody knows who's in charge, and the taxes pile up. And so when the taxes pile up, one of these nice, kind, white gentlemen sometimes will come into the, can I use your purse right quick? Will come into town with a humble suitcase full of cash and humbly sit down at the judge's court, and he says, I noticed that there's a property that's available in such and such a plat land, and the jurisdiction there and the property description and everything like that is what it is. And he goes and he describes and says, yes, oh yes, we know what you're talking about. The property taxes are behind. And they go and they pay the property taxes. Thank you. And then they go and seek out the relatives who are the heirs of the property. And it becomes a domino effect. They get one or two of them to sell their portion of the property or the perceived property. They haven't even platted the land. They don't know whose part is who. They don't have no idea whose part is who. They just know that you're one of the heirs. And so they come and they offer you, would you take $20,000 for this piece of the property? your 2 acres? And you say, yes, you're desperate, you need the $20,000. Yes, you can have it. I ain't never going to move over there. I ain't never coming back there. Yeah, you can have mine. Here's $20K. All right, and okay, and then they check that one off. Then he goes to the next family member and says, hey, would you take $20,000 for this piece of property for your 2 acres? And you say, yes. And so now, and they keep that process going until they have more than 50% stake in the 1,000 acres that your grandparent left you, or your 40 acres without a mule that they left you. And now they have monopoly that they plan on you, and now they can come over there and they can just simply make an offer and say, or they can force a state sale at the county courthouse. And what that means is all they have to do is put out a public notice in the area, not the area where you're living at in California or New York or New Jersey, Ohio, or Tennessee, just in the local newspaper. And guess what? That's considered legally sufficient notice. And nobody from the family answered the article. So who shows up at the public auction for the land? The one who has the biggest stake in the land. And the next thing you know, your property is sold right off and under your nose. That you had no idea that was supposed to be yours. Because you didn't show up at the auction and you didn't contend. And so no contention, no property. And guess what? Half of them didn't know the property existed anyway. They didn't even know the property existed. Why disturb the nest? You didn't know the great-grandmother left y'all 10 of y'all properties, and none of y'all knew if it even existed until somebody brought it to your attention. What? Grandma has some property that left me? That's how they found out. But by then, it's almost too late. Okay? All right. So that's what you have going on with that. In a lot of situations and circumstances, if you talk about wealth transfer. So I'm telling you all the negative stuff first, because there is a solution to what I'm saying right now. But I have to get that out of the way because that's typical of what happens on a daily, weekly, monthly, annual basis in a lot of our properties that get lost in the shuffle of time and legal ignorance. There's 2 things that you're going to pay for more than anything else in life. You know what they are? Somebody say it. Ignorance is one, and taxes is the other. You don't know what you don't know, therefore you can't do what you need to do because you don't know enough about what you don't know to do anything about it. Therefore, you're going to perpetuate the same generational curse of ignorance that came before you and the same curse of ignorance that will follow you because you simply just don't know the difference to make the difference. Therefore, you are part of the problem and not the solution because you just don't know how to be a part of the solution. And that's a problem. So today, we've come here today, I believe by the order of God today, to enlighten you on something different that you need to know to put yourself back in the position of the king and queen that God has not only qualified you to be, but beckons you to be. It is your spiritual and Christian duty and fundamental responsibility to be up on the up and up and in the know of what's happening with your estate and with your family members' estate. And that's where we're going to get engagement. Did we have a comment or question? Go ahead.
I was just going to add to that. You know, ignorance is what you've been saying is just, you know, we never knew.
Right.
And our family and our mothers and our fathers, they didn't know.
Yes.
And they were in a position where they were trying to make sure they were fair.
Right.
And that's why all of our properties were left in everybody's names. So if they had 8 kids, they left it in all 8 kids' names, not understanding that that was a curse. Because most properties that are owned by black folks are undeveloped. Why are they undeveloped? Because you can't do anything unless all 8 people agree.
Right.
See? And so if one dies, one's in prison, one's over here, it's almost impossible to develop that land. If we were taught to put it into a trust where we don't have to worry about no favoritism, and all 8 kids are the beneficiaries of the trust, then now the trust can move and do development and do what it has to do to keep those properties in our family. But we're either going to lose it or it's going to be undeveloped.
Amen.
We just don't know.
Let me give you an example of that. Not too far from here in Robertson, Franklin, Texas, my great-great-great-great-grandfather left property back in the day for 7 of his children, 100 acres. He bought for $8,000, paid it off just as the World War I was getting started in 1913. As you can imagine, in doing the math, that's been now almost 112, 111 years now since that property was purchased by my great-great-great-grandfather. And it's still sitting there, undeveloped. A couple of my cousins in the past have received lands of it. It was divided up. He gave each of the kids like 7 acres apiece or 15 acres apiece, something like that, 15 acres apiece. 30 acres of it has already been lost. We only have 70 acres of it left because of the scenario I just described to you happened. 2 of the people who bought the land, one worked for the city, for the county clerk, and the other one was the sheriff of the clerk. So they knew when the sheriff's sale was going to come due, and they knew that the property that was bought, one of the family members took out a loan against it and didn't pay the loan back, and so they were in foreclosure of the land, and so they lost 30 acres for $15,000, y'all, at the auction. And now this couple, they have a home on the land, they have cattle and farm on it, right next to our property, right? Okay? And so my other cousins own some of the other acreage and so forth. Ours that our mom left us is 15.47 acres on our part. That's divided up into about 12 ways. And so we're collaborating right now on the property to see what we're going to do to develop it in that prime area that it's in. And so my point to you in telling you that what Russell just told you is true. We all have to have family meetings to agree on what's going to happen on that property. Neither one of us can individually decide what's going to happen in that property. And the same is go with husband and wife. You can't convey a trust. You can't convey a trust, even an irrevocable common law trust. You have a husband and wife. The husband agrees, the wife doesn't. The wife agrees, the husband doesn't. They both have to agree when you mutually are on the ticket. When you're mutually on the deed, it has to be a mutual agreement of both of you to move that property into a trust. It's a fraudulent conveyance if you force it and do it anyway. Keep that in mind, okay? Now, it's easier sometimes when you're transitioning a property situation, it's easier to do it when there is agreement between 2 people. However, it's also easier with a spouse when a spouse passes away, leaves the other spouse the property. In Texas, for example, it's a equal state, community property state, so much of it can go over to the other spouse without any harm, without no probate. However, when that spouse person dies, now we got a problem if that person doesn't have some kind of estate planning, will, trust, whatever. So here's why a living trust, how many of you have a living trust? Raise your hand. Raise your hand if you have a living trust, please. Living trust, not a trust, but a living trust. Okay? Nobody? Raise your hand if you have a will. Will? Okay, all right. Okay. Raise your hand if you have nothing. Raise your hand if you wish you had something. Okay, all right. Okay. Raise your hand if you don't know anything about raising your hand. Okay, all right. Okay. All right, that's a trick question. Okay. All right, so the facts about it is that when you have a will, as I said in the message this morning, you have a ticket to probate court or a ticket before the administrator who is going to engage you to figure out how much money and how much property they can take. Because when the bill runs so high that you can't afford it, they'll say, well, these fees are really getting high. I tell you what, why don't you just give us the deed and sign over the property to us? And we'll just take it that way as payment. And if you would do that, then we'll call it even. All right? And we'll give you crumbs from the master's table. But be aware, my dog might eat those crumbs because he likes crumbs, okay? All right, so be careful. My dog loves crumbs. That's in your hand, babe. You have a question? Robin, Mike, here.
So you were saying that it's easier to when there's a spouse and one pass. What about if there's a single person not married and they only have one child? Does it make it easier then?
It does. It makes it
Okay.
easier then. If that's the only heir, then there's succession. But that doesn't mean that it's not going to go to probate court. Because can we just really tell the truth about what probate court is about? Probate court is about how much land, property, and money can the judges and the lawyers get out of you while they're on the golf course.
Come on, John. Come on.
You know, Jim, I've been looking at that Taylor estate over there, and it's really looking good. You know, those folks over there, I heard that there's oil on that land over there, but we can't tell them about the mineral rights there. Let's keep that from them. But there's enough to go around for you and me both. We're going to have to see how we're going to maneuver and get this done for us. So what do you think, Jim? Well, Judge, I think that we can work that out. How much of it do you want? I have a son-in-law over there that's going to make part of it into a marijuana farm, because they locked all y'all up, so they can do the marijuana farm. Now that y'all all in jail, the great salesmen are in jail that used to sell the stuff on the street, but now that you're all in jail, now we can sell it through the farms now and make a lot of money on that. Y'all get the point, don't you? And so anyway, so yes, Jim, you can get that land and do this. Probate court, do not kid yourself, or it's not for you. It's the illusion that is for you to give you a portion of that which you think is yours, but don't pay the taxes. Have some family controversy, and you'll find out whose land it really is. However, until today, if you have an irrevocable common law trust, you're empowered like a king and a queen. Here's how. Because the jurisdiction of that trust is not in the residential jurisdiction of that state. It's placed in Washington, D.C. So the irrevocable common law trust, the reason why it trumps a living trust, there are 166 trusts out there in the marketplace. And like specialties, like the medical profession, you have a cardiologist, you have an ear doctor, nose doctor, and that kind of stuff. Those are the doctor's specialties, right? Trust a lawyer's specialty to make extra money, to pad their pockets and their income and their wealth. Their wealth, not yours, their wealth. Okay? They use trusts, land control, covenants to control their bottom line. With you in mind, and your gullibleness, and your vulnerableness, and your grief, wanting and seeking relief with instant cash. Well, knowing that the property with mineral rights is worth $1 million, we've really been working hard on this case. Would you accept $75,000 for it today? You got 48 hours to make your decision, or the offer is off the table. And you go to bed thinking about, man, what could I do with $75,000? I ain't going to ever live there or develop that land or anything like that anyway. And you give them a call the next day and says, okay, all right, where do I sign it? You sign right here. And then 2 years later, you hear some commotion and stuff, and you see some equipment coming over there, and they're drilling for oil to the tune of $50 million. That happened to a family in Louisiana that I know right now, that's going on right now. the oil royalties that are owed to them is over $28 million, and they can't touch a dime of it because Grandpa didn't have a will and is still in probate court after 7 years. Are you listening to me? And the oil leasing company that leased the land have made millions of dollars out of leasing the land and haven't paid the family hardly a dime. Does that sound pretty real to y'all? Is that a real enough scenario? Do I need to give you some more examples? I'm going to stop right there with that one. I'm going to go over the next move. I'm going to tell you the next thing that you need to know. Go ahead, question. Go ahead, comment or question. Go ahead.
Yes, sir, because I can relate to what you said because that's what happened to well, I'm not from Texas.
Uh-huh.
And that's what happened to my parents' land.
Okay.
And because of that, they didn't do a will. And because of that, we lost all the land, we lose all the cattle, all the sheep and all the goats and all the oil.
Mm-hmm.
And I just come to find out, the attorney bought the land and they're making billions of my parents' land.
Yes.
And that's what's going on. And well, I'm single, and the family went to them, and they said, well, if your parents didn't have a will, they didn't make a will, so it's nothing we can really do about it.
Right.
So right now the land is going on, and they're making billions of money on my parents, on my mom and my dad land.
I'm sorry to hear that, but welcome to the club of generational wealth stealing. Yeah. Question back here, this lady, and yours right here, and then I'll come back to you. I think you have a comment. Go ahead, back here.
Okay, I had one of those no probate thing done.
Living trust? No probate thing usually sounds like a living trust, but go ahead.
Well, no prob for my heirs not to go to court to probate, right?
For your heirs not to go to court, probate court, okay?
I did have a will, but it was for my sister-in-law, but my kids were underage at the time. Now they are all grown folks, which means I need to do another will or,
Okay? What we're going to share with you, my sister, will give you the legal power that if you have a will, to get rid of it, descend it at the county level. We have a special form that we can give you to descend that will. You need to get rid of it. Okay? Wills are tickets to probate court. Front row seat, by the way. It's usually right up here, around about here. Yeah. Right in front of the judge. 33% of the estate, plus the 20%. And y'all, there are 41 states in the United States that are not common law, that have a state tax. There are only 9 states in the United States that don't have a tax requirement of their state, capital gains tax requirement. And Texas is one of them that doesn't have that. They're a common law state. All right? But that won't absolve you from being penetratable in your corporate veil or your family's veil. Go ahead, Russell. Yeah. Yes. Right. It's going to take 33% to get that will probated. Because it doesn't happen with the will unless it's probated. Or it's no effect. Just ink on paper. And nobody's going to get anything until it's probated, usually.
And you can't move the asset without it being probated.
Right.
Now, everybody understand that, listen, probate is the public side, y'all. It's the public side. So when you go through probate, you just expose your assets to the judge.
Right.
And to the attorney. You just exposed it to them. They didn't even know about it. They now know about it. So if your property is nice, they're going for it.
Yes.
Because you just exposed it.
Right.
Okay? There's a private side where you don't have to expose it.
Right.
And if what they don't know, they can't come after.
Right. Okay?
Simple as that, y'all.
Now, this is the game, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tell y'all now this part of it. Russell's going to do his portion in just a little bit and show you on the slides what that looks like. I'm just going to verbally engage you from communication and tell you what's happening so that when you see it on the slide, you recognize it and you know what he's talking about and you know what I'm talking about. It'll become very crystal clear to you what we're saying. Here's why you want an irrevocable common law trust. Number one, because it's private, just like Russell said. It's a private trust. Number two, it puts the jurisdiction out of the state's hands and into Washington, D.C. In the state, all you need to be done is accused of something, and you got to go to court to defend yourself, whether you like it or not. You're going to have to defend yourself. Maybe you might get away with it pro se and representing yourself, maybe, but not likely when it comes to property stuff. Generally speaking, you got to do an awful lot of homework, and then you still might lose the case. Because remember, they're in cahoots with each other in the court. They are officers of the court, not officers for you, though it seems that way. They're officers of the court to divide and conquer. That's why they have a court. A court is nothing more than a glorified bank. That's why they do collections. That's why they have their own trust that you don't trust and can't trust because you don't know what to trust. But they're a trust. Every city and state is a trust. The United States is a trust. Most financial institutions is a trust. Most of the Fortune 500 companies have a trust that allows them to never pay taxes. Why? Because Amazon doesn't own their properties and robots and trucks and all that and conveyor belts and all that. Amazon doesn't own that. Amazon International Trust owns that. And they lease it back to the business through their business trust for a 100% tax deduction, meaning they pay no taxes. Legally. Sanctioned by the IRS. My wife and I, we own the financial business, and if you've ever been to our office, it's pretty posh, praise God. Isn't it, Russell? Is it posh, Russell? Praise be to God. Our massage equipment and all of the stuff that we own, all of, 20-something chairs and all that other stuff, is in the business trust. We no longer own it. Our trust owns it. And now we have a lease that we put together so that we can get a 100% remuneration on it. What I'm trying to tell you, y'all, is that you can do the same thing that the rich folk do if you know to do it. And that's why we're here, to teach you how to do it. All right? So I hope you're listening, because you'll never, listen to me, you're never in your life are going to probably get this information from not a single soul. 99.9% of attorneys in this country are not licensed in common law and can never tell you about how to get these type of trusts because they don't know themselves. It's just like a doctor asking a doctor, can you tell me about these supplements? Baby, I don't do supplements, but I can write you a script. They get 1 week of nutrition in medical practice. What do they know about giving you supplements? They don't care about no supplements. I'll give you a script, but I ain't give you no supplement this or supplement that or recommend it to you unless you have a holistic doctor that knows the difference. Then that's a different thing. Your hand, brother, right there. Oh, your hand first and then your hand. And then your hand, Pastor. Go ahead.
So I was just going to make the comment. So Amazon doesn't own all that. It's in the trust. However, correct me if I'm wrong, they are the executors so that they can do pretty much whatever they want with the trust in the trust fund because they are the executors of it.
Russell, go ahead. Russell's a former Coca-Cola man that used to work with Coca-Cola Trust with Coca-Cola.
Yeah, so
tell them about it, Russell. Go
Amazon
ahead.
USA has their own board of trustees.
Thank you.
And then Amazon's trust has its own board of trustees. Separate. One is in the public sector, one is in the private. Okay?
Right.
And so the private trust can lease the money back or lease the assets back to Amazon USA. So when they make $30 billion, can you just imagine the lease is about $27 billion? Okay? Probably the other $3 billion is probably payroll. Now, does Amazon make any money? They don't make no money.
Right. But the trust that
But
has
the trust gets all the money.
The trust gets all the money, and guess what the trust does with the money? The board of trustees is over the board of trust. That's over the trust. They making the money, and watch what they're going to do with it. They're going to buy more assets, more robots, more trucks, and everything like that. And guess what they're going to do with it? Lease it back to Amazon, the company, for 100% tax write-off. And guess what? You and I can do the exact same thing. After a Rotary Club member, after we're members of Rotary Club in Fort Worth, and how many of you are familiar with what the Rotary Club is? Anybody know what the Rotary Club is? Ever
Boys
heard of
Club?
it? I know you've heard of the Lions Club, but have you ever heard of the Rotary Club? Anybody in here? Anybody? Raise your hand if you heard of a Rotary Club, okay? Rotary Club International. All right, how many of you ever heard of Chambers of Commerce? Chambers of Commerce, Chambers of Commerce, Chambers of Commerce. Now, in case you don't know, I'm going to just give you a little insight, okay? Because we're members of both. The Chambers of Commerce will introduce your business and you to the city. They'll do ribbon cuttings, they'll do groundbreakings and everything like that, network marketing meetings and all that. We have something in the chamber called TOMA, Top of Mind Awareness. In other words, I may not need your services or your business, but I know somebody who does. When I get to know who you are, I can recommend you to brother so-and-so over here, sister so-and-so over here, because I know who you are and I know what you do. That's network marketing with the Chamber of Commerce. So the Chamber of Commerce introduces you to the city, but the Rotary Club runs the city.
That's right.
Don't kid yourself. You might think the mayor runs the city. You might think the city councilman run the city. But the Rotary Club runs the city, bro. And I'm going to tell you why. Because they consist of the councilmen, the mayors, the city managers, the independent school district superintendents, the multimillionaires who run the industry and the businesses of the city and the county and so forth. They are weekly, usually, or monthly, or whatever, at the Rotary Club meeting. So if you're an entrepreneur and you're going to be really smart in your business about what it is you do, and you want to really get into the players without having to necessarily go to the golf course, just go to a Rotary Club meeting and shake a few hands and get to know who the presidents and the mayors are of the city and the town. And then when you need to get past the gatekeeper for your business for the contract that you need, hey, I'm a Rotary Club member, and I know Mr. Smith there in the Rotary Club. Tell him that this is Mr. Washington calling, Rotary Club member. Mr. Washington? Yes. He'll put you right through. Come on in. Or put the call through. Membership has its privileges. Know what you're doing. Those used to be very racist, by the way. They didn't allow blacks in those Rotary Clubs back in the day. And some of them, in some counties, in some cities, in some states, still don't allow you and I in there. So don't kid yourself, all right? Go ahead, Pastor. And then, I saw your hand too. Go ahead.
So with the trust, how does that protect you from like financial lawsuits?
Good question. But a financial lawsuit, how are you going to sue a trust? A trust is bulletproof with a P.O. box that's federal. Ever tried serving a P.O. box? With service? Serve a P.O. box? Ain't nobody there. Oh, that's because it's a P.O. box. Set in Washington, D.C., federal property owned. They own the post office system. That's federal. You walk into the post office, that's federal. That's federal ground. Not under statutory law, even though it's in the state, it ain't a part of the state. The real estate ain't a part of the state. So when you put your trust, irrevocable common law trust, in the jurisdiction of that 14-mile radius in Washington, D.C., it is bulletproof because when you sue someone, if they're going to sue your trust, they better go to Washington, D.C., and it's fact-based, not accusation-based. So you got to have your stuff together, your ducks lined up in a row when you appear before the magistrate or judge there. And that ain't all. You better have a $150,000 bond to just hear the case. And if you ain't got that, case dismissed, bye-bye, see you later, try another time. That's the power of having your trust in an irrevocable common law trust in the jurisdiction of Washington, D.C. That's the power over a living trust that has no kind of power over this type of trust. This trust is so old, it predates the 13 original colonies. Did you hear me? Passed over from England. And the private foundation trust, the 508c, private foundation trust, oh, let me get to tell you about that in just a few seconds. You ain't heard nothing yet. Y'all just think y'all done heard some information. When I tell you about that, I'm going to show you some game right here in a few seconds. Go ahead. Go your question.
I just want to ask, based on trust and business, can I put an LLC in a trust?
Okay. All right. You don't want to put an LLC in the trust. Why would you want to do that? You make it vulnerable. You make your trust vulnerable. It's a private trust. Don't put a public entity under private umbrella. So let the trust own the assets of the business. Therefore, it doesn't need to own the LLC. It just owns the assets of the business. Keep that separate, right? So they can only sue you in the LLC, but when they get ready to sue you in the LLC, guess what? You ain't got nothing in there. If it's owned by the trust, they can sue the trust in your LLC. But if it's not owned by the trust and they just have the assets in the trust, guess what? You know the song with MC Hammer? Can't touch this? Doom, 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 doom. Can't touch this. All right. You be singing and dancing. Doom, you can't touch this. Yeah, you be singing that all day long. All right. Can't touch this. Okay. So, comment question right here. And let me go to this. I got to explain this 508C, y'all. Y'all need to hear this. Go ahead.
So if you get an irrevocable common law trust, who is pulling the strings in that of the trust that you get? Because it sounds like to me that even though it's your trust, you're not the executive, or you're not in charge of it, you know.
Very good question. Flesh and blood had not revealed that to you, my sister. So let me, flesh and blood, reveal it to you. All right. So here's the fact of the matter is that when you have an irrevocable common law trust, there are three primary positions. There's the compliance officer, which that position does not exist in a living trust, by the way, or any other of the 166 trusts that are out there. That position does not exist. Did y'all hear me? There's no such thing of it, but it's called a compliance officer. The second position is the trustee position, for which you, as a compliance officer of your trust, can hire and fire trustees. You cannot do that with a living trust with the attorney as the trustee, and you're just simply the administrator. You've already given all that legal lease over to the trustee, to the attorney, so therefore you have no rights for that. You can't hire or fire them at that point in time, even if you didn't like them. Y'all hear that? But in the common law trust, you're the compliance officer, and you cannot be, it's a conflict of interest, you cannot be the trustee and the compliance officer and a beneficiary of your own trust. That you cannot be. So, but what you can do is be the compliance officer and the beneficiary of your trust. And you assign the trustee position to Succeed Consulting Firm, accounting firm, that has an accounting office in addition to having the trust office that set up the trust. They have an accounting officer that you put that in the jurisdiction of, because the IRS will not, listen to me, they will not audit a third party and ask for receipts. They take the report, the monthly reports, profit and loss statements and all that, and at the end of the year, they will not audit a third party. They'll take their thing at face value of what is given to them, unless there's some really screw-ups in there. But they won't audit him. But if they audit you, they're going to ask for every receipt you got. Give me that receipt. I said that to wake you up. All right. You see what I'm saying? But they're going to ask for every receipt that you got. So when you maintain the compliance officer and the beneficiary, guess what? When you go and swipe that debit card or write the trust check, you can write it for you too, as well as your beneficiaries in that trust, and let the trust take care of you. Now watch this. Oh boy, you've got to hear this. Did you know that if you get sick, I see your hand. Where you at? I see your hand, Pastor. If you get sick and you end up needing Medicaid services, you cannot get Medicaid or qualify for Medicaid unless you liquidate all your stuff. Can anybody identify? They ain't giving you no service until you sell that home, sell that property and liquidate all you got. Can't have more than $5,000 asset in your home. So, watch this. Y'all ready to play some Monopoly? Y'all ready to play some Monopoly? Let me tell you some game. Listen to me. When you have an irrevocable common law trust and you are the compliance officer and all your home assets are in the family trust, the irrevocable common law trust with a spendthrift clause in it. See, I ain't told you anything about a spendthrift clause yet. I ain't even got into that yet, but I'll get into that in a few moments. But just that part alone qualifies you for Medicaid, because when you get ready to fill out the application about do you have a home, the honest answer is no, I don't have a home. I don't have any assets. Why? Because the trust owns them. You see the game? So how is it that a millionaire can qualify for Medicaid and you making $40,000, $50,000 a year with a home that you own and you can't qualify? Because check it out, y'all. Listen to this, y'all. Because all your assets, they're going to bury them in one suit. Baby, you're going to bury them in one suit? Don't put 5 suits in the casket, please. Don't do that. You're going to bury in one suit. So all my clothes, my shoes, her bags, the pictures on the wall, the appliances, all the other stuff has been sold to the family trust. So if you sue my family, oh, I'm broke as a joke and need to choke. You can't sue me. You can sue me. You might get a few crumbs from the master table, but all my stuff is in the trust. I don't have to tell you that. Just know that it's all in the trust. I don't own anything. All my assets are in the trust. Well, you got to speak in the mic. All right. Pastor, wait a minute. Hold it. Hold your question and comment. Pastor, go ahead and make yours.
All right, two questions.
Uh-huh.
One of them you may have to answer offline.
Okay.
Now, the first question, if I take $100,000 to $1 million insurance policy out of my wife, can I put that in the trust?
Yes, the trust can own the policy and they can be the beneficiary of the policy.
Break that down for somebody.
Okay.
And what does that mean long term?
If you have a life insurance policy, you want your trust to be the beneficiary of the policy and the owner of the policy. And you want that with all your kids and everybody that wants to have an insurance. And guess what? With the spendthrift clause of the family trust, your life insurance premiums are 100% tax write-off every single year.
And you can become
you
your own bank.
can't do that in a business.
And you become your own bank.
And that's a way that you can become your own bank. But there's 12 things that Russell's going to show you on the slides. There are 12 things that you can write off that you have no idea that you can write off with the spendthrift clause of the common law trust, as the rich people have done for years and years. And that is, you can write off 100% of your home, all the expenses of your home, including the HOA fees, the lawn service, the maid service, the pool service, 100% tax write-off, y'all. Did I say that too loud?
Brother John.
You don't have to put that on your 1040 anymore either, because you don't own it anymore. The trust owns it. And they file a 1041, and there's so many tax advantages inside the 1041 that you never need to pay any of that again once it's in that trust. So because you're going to get it back.
Here's my second question.
Go ahead.
And like I said, you may have to answer this. I know nothing's free.
Mm-hmm.
But I do know I'm asking, my question is, Friends of Ephesus. I'm going to leave it at that.
All right.
How much would this cost, and especially for Friends of Ephesus?
Friends of Ephesus. Well, let's see. It's 4:45 right now. Y'all don't want no financial discussion just yet. I have to wait till the sunset. As soon as the sunset, I'll tell you all about it. Anyway, you got to hang on in there, though. All you real faithful Bible-believing Adventists, you have to wait till at least 5:20. All right. But I will answer that question, Pastor. All right. Okay, let me see your hand and then your hand. All right, real quickly, okay?
Yes, but the beneficiary, Well, I put my family member on my beneficiary.
Uh-huh.
Since I don't have family over here.
Okay.
So I put my family on my beneficiary.
Mm-hmm.
And trust. I trust them. I trusted them to do what they said they was going to do.
Uh-huh.
And up to this day, I haven't seen nothing.
Okay.
I haven't seen the beneficiary money. I haven't seen the trust money.
Uh-huh.
I haven't seen anything. So
Well, you probably have a living trust, number one. That's probably one of the problems right there. And number two, because, again, sometimes family dynamics when it comes to money and property and things like that can be a really screwball thing because nobody really knows what's really going on. And sometimes that's why y'all can break generational curses while you're here today. You can stop that in its tracks today. If you hear his voice,
Right.
harden not your heart, and certainly not your understanding about what we're saying today. And if you do that, that strategy alone will save you generational thousands of dollars and even millions of dollars into the future. It will save you, y'all. Listen to. All right, so let me tell you this part about the 508C deal. Before I go there, how many of you are W-2 employees? Raise your hand. You're W-2 employees right now, right here, right now. Raise your hand nice and high. I got to get a good visual of this. How many of you are retired? Raise your hand. You're retired, 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 retired. Okay, all right. How many are retired but you still filing 1040s and having to pay taxes? Okay, now if you're not at the breakfast tomorrow and you're not here after sundown today, then keep paying your taxes and enjoy it. Okay? Because we're going to tell you a strategy of how you shouldn't be paying those taxes. There's a strategy that you're not aware of that we're going to peak the game on and tell you about, that if you hang on in there and be patient and tarry with us, we came all the way down here from San Antonio not to eat dinner from Goodlow's Cooking and Goodlow's Kitchen and then eat a breakfast tomorrow for brunch and then walk away from here like nothing happened, like we're just really big on breakfast and lunch. Okay? All right? We came down here to give you an educational, knowledge type of a meal that you've never had before. And if you can't eat from that table, shame all over your entire estate. May the curses continue. Okay? I'm just saying. Okay? If you can't take the time, I don't care how busy and what you got to do between sundown today and breakfast tomorrow morning, if you can't take the time to check it out, what's really happening and what needs to be happening with you, I'm telling you, may the curses continue. Because that's what's going to happen. Whether we wanted to for you or not, that's what's going to happen, y'all. Because you don't know enough about what you need to know to make a difference in the stuff you don't know. And I'm telling you, I can tell you right now, we do this presentation to hundreds of people every week. And we know that this is a special knowledge, y'all, that people of ordinary status have no idea what's going on. Not even some people who have money have no idea what's going on. They don't. Doctors, lawyers, engineers, architects, school, district, principals, vice principals, they have no idea what's going on until today. Y'all are here, you're blessed, and you're privileged, and you're highly favored of God, and we're trying to spread this financial evangelism as far and broad and as quick as we can before they stop it. Because right now, it's absolutely and totally legal. In a Rotary Club, I had a friend of mine who's a professor of Texas A&M Law School, downtown Fort Worth, Texas. And we had a conversation about this very thing I'm telling you about, right? Watch this, y'all. This gentleman tells me, when I have the discussion with him, and I tell him what we're doing with average, everyday folk, he looks puzzled at first. And then he says, you mean to tell me you're telling that to people of average income? I only set those kind of trust up for people who are making no less than $50 million a year. Did y'all hear me? You just heard and begin to hear today a conversation that you will probably never be in the presence of to hear. You heard it today, firsthand. Can y'all say thank God? All right, let me finish this part. A 508c ministry trust, for those of you who have a W-2 employee, do you know in this taxable year alone, I don't know what it's going to be like next year. Before the pandemic, it was 35%. During the pandemic, Trump made it 100%. Right now, it's 60%. Do you know that you can donate 60% of your W-2 salary to your own private foundation, a 508c private foundation? 508c, document it, write it down. 508c ministry trust, not a 501c3, a 508c ministry trust. Most of our churches are 501c3s. When you have a 501c3, you don't own the 501c3, the public does. It is a public entity that must file a tax return every single year. But a 508c ministry trust, y'all, never has to file a tax return. Oh, y'all missed that. You have a private foundation, a 508c ministry trust, and you never have to file a tax return. And you get tax exemptions, and you can receive donations. Now, and you can donate up to 60% of your W-2 income to your own 508c ministry trust, and the legal requirement by the IRS is that you donate to a 501c3, and most of you do that already with your tithe and offering to the 501c3 church, to the tune of 10 to 15%. Whereas the rest of the 85%, if you own 15%, 10% tithe, 5% offering, where's the rest of the 85% of the 60% that you donated from your W-2 salary? It's still in your private foundation. And after the taxable year, you can take that money and move it over into your family trust and pay bills off of it the rest of the year. Come on, God. From your own donations. From your own donations. And you can have your adult son and your adult daughter, who's also part of the family trust, donate 60% of their salary to it, and then in the next taxable year, pay all their mortgage and everything for them through the family trust. Ooh, boy. Yeah. Ooh, man. Y'all better make sure y'all get some sleep tonight. Y'all better have y'all hips over here tomorrow at 10 o'clock for the brunch. Y'all just heard a little bit of it. I only told you a little bit about it, but I'm going to tell you a little bit more right here, okay? I got to do this in fairness to you. All right. Does that make sense? Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. Make sense? All right. Question, Pastor? Go ahead. Okay. So the 508c Ministry Trust, y'all, have y'all ever wondered? By the way, most countries operate out of a 508c Ministry Trust. Have you ever wondered why people who are not ministers are called minister secretary and prime minister, but they're not ministers? Because they operate out of a 508c ministry trust that requires no tax return. Ministerial department, minister of this, minister of that, and ain't no minister. Ain't wearing the little cloth with the little white thing on the collar and all that. But they're running an operation in the millions and even billions. No tax return required. Anyway, that sounds too scary. You know what? That's too good to be true for most of you, for some of you. And whether you believe it or not, I really don't care. Because it's true whether you believe it or not. It's been going on centuries before you and I got here. And it's going to be going on probably, most likely, because the rich always protect themselves. It's going to be going on long after you're gone. And it's going to be passed on to their generations and not yours, unless you do something about it. Okay? All right? Is that fair to say? All right? Because as you know and I know, money doesn't care who you are. It does not. You either use it and multiply it, because all the rich want to do three things. They want to grow their money, they want to protect their money, and they want to preserve the wealth that they have in the position that they're in right now, today. That's what they want to do with their money. Grow it, protect it, and preserve it. What do you want to do with yours? Watch it sink? Watch you keep paying taxes on it, keep losing property over it, and can't pass down generational wealth to the next generation because you don't know what to do in order to do that successfully. And so it keeps on getting eaten up by canker sores, by cankers, something the Lord promised his people that would never happen. My people are destroyed because of a lack of knowledge. But today, if you hear his voice, you don't have to keep on having your finances destroyed if you learn to listen with wisdom. That's why Jesus, over and over again, this is what he would say. He that has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. All right? Hear. Hearing is a function. Listening is a skill. I can hear the sound of the orchestra, but can I tell you when the cello is playing? When the bass is playing? Can I tell you the distinction of the sound of the French horn versus the saxophone? When I have a discerning, listening ear, I can tell you the difference. And so when I will look at the minutia of my finances, when I know the difference and I can discern the difference, I can tell you the difference because I now know the difference. Does that make sense? Okay. So, all right, go ahead.
So, and this is the reason why our brother, the mega church in Dallas, is prospering, why our brother in Houston, the mega churches, because they understand the system.
Yeah.
And we get mad at them. They're not stealing the money. They're just using the money.
Sure.
Well, some may be stealing, but anyway, that's another conversation.
Right.
So the 508C, is that an individual or like right now, the church is on the what? 501c3? That's the church.
Right.
So the 508C, is that part of the trust or individual outside of the trust?
Very interesting question. So since I'm on record and conference people might listen, because they deal in trust, wills and trusts that they push off on the membership, and I'm bold enough to say it with grace. They deal with wills and trusts, living trust, not irrevocable common law trust, because I can assure you most of the attorneys of the conference have never ever heard of it. That's the truth and the facts. The other truth of the facts is that from the local congregation to the conference office to the union office to the GC, 501c3s, okay? Owned by the general public. And watch this. When you're owned by the general public, say something that the state doesn't like, and we'll yank your exemption status. Or say something in politics that we don't like, especially right now. And you're going to find out what your woke exemption status is. Your DEI exemption status is. You're going to find out the hard way. But when I have a 508c ministry trust, like a country, and I'm just an individual, I say what I want to say, when I want to say it, how I want to say it, the truth be told, like Jesus, when I speak, you must be like E.F. Hutton and listen. Some of y'all don't know what E.F. Hutton is, but that's back in the day. That's an old commercial anyway. That's 50 plus. Those of you 50 pluses, y'all know what E.F. Hutton, when E.F. Hutton speaks, everybody listens. Anyway, y'all know. Anybody know what E.F. Hutton is? Y'all remember what E.F. Hutton? Look at there. See, those are 50 plus folks right there. And they just told the age right there. You got to be 50 plus to know that commercial is. You know what I'm saying? When E.F. Hutton speaks, baby, you better listen, okay? All right? If you're younger than 50, you may not know that commercial at all, all right? But when E.F. Hutton speaks, baby, you better listen. All right, so he that had an ear, let him hear what the Spirit of God says to the churches, to Ephesus in San Antonio, Texas. Today, if you hear his voice, harden not your heart, harden not your wallet, harden not your time. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your effort doing any other thing. Listen to the word of God coming to you here and now. Like it, love it, disobey it, do whatever you want, but it's been told to you. Is the message. today. Engage us in breakfast tomorrow with individual appointments to talk to you about your individual estate if you dare to do differently or want to take advantage of us while we're here for free, because the day is going to come when it's going to be $5,000, $10,000 per hour for our time. Not to be egregious, but to be factual. Because one thing about it, we're not the Walmart of trust. These trusts are extremely expensive for a reason, because they were never intended for you and I to get them. So they put them completely out of your budget and out of your reach until today, until now. Find out in about 30 more minutes, and find out tomorrow morning what you can do to acquire these trusts. And guess what? They are the third of the cost of anything that you'll see in the marketplace. Because in the marketplace, there are only 5 companies in the entire United States that provides these kind of a trust. And we're one of them. We know our competition. And we want to make it affordable for our people. And if you can go out and you can buy a car, $25,000, with the interest of 15 to 25%, that's going to cost you twice for the car in 6 to 7 years, and you can't afford a trust, then guess what? You don't need one. Please keep buying your $25,000 cars with your 25% interest with bad credit, because that's what bad credit people do. It's 25%. When you have a credit score of 680 or above, or 720 or above, you can walk on any car dealership which you want to with no money down and all the bells and whistles, and get handed the keys and drive off with the car of your dreams with no money down, when you have the right credit in your favor, which is why we do credit repair as well. For those who are credit stressed and not able to have that, we do credit repair at our company as well, through our 2020 business vision plan, and you got to know more about that. I'll have to teach you that on another day. But go ahead, question, concern right there. Go ahead, ma'am.
Hi. If I have 501c, can I transfer it to 508AC?
508C Ministry Trust? This gentleman right here is a 501c expert. Sets 501c3s up as an expert, and 508cs as well. Russell is one of the best that I have ever worked with, and I've worked on many boards of 501c3s, the March of Dimes Foundation, the United Community Centers in Fort Worth and Tarrant County, and I can tell you right now, you ain't seen no setup in a 501c3 or a 508c like you see this brother right here in his company, and Succeed Consulting Firm. Russell, can you address her question? Can she discontinue her 501c3 and make it into a 508, or how does she go about doing it?
Unfortunately, you can't change it over, because when you do a 501c3, the state makes you get their jurisdiction. That's why you have to do an application. You have to do the 1023 application, which forces you into a state. You have to pick a state to be incorporated in that state. So with a 508c, there's no incorporation with the state. I want to make sure everybody understands what public is and what private is. Public means that you have to register something.
Right.
Anytime you have to register something, you're on the public record. And they can use that record against you. Right? Okay? But when you're private, there's no registry. That's why these trustees talking about a common law trust, there's no record with the state, y'all. The state don't know nothing about your trust. It's private. Just like you don't know nothing about their business. Right?
Right.
Okay? So you got to understand, so to answer your question, you can't transfer it over. You just have to start a 508c ministry. Now, what you can do is, you can use your 508c ministry to donate to your 501c3, because by requirement by law, it's required 5% donation. So that's how you would use it in conjunction to your 501c3.
And one other particular strategy is that you can sell all your assets from the 501c3 to the 508c ministry trust and hold all the assets in the trust instead of in the general public. So if your 501c3 is sued, because they do get sued, guess what? They can't get a dime because the 501c3 doesn't own the assets, the 508c does. And it's immune from your lawsuits. Ooh, boy, that's an anointed game if I ever heard. Is that anointed game, y'all? Is that anointed game? Praise God for it. I'm telling you, that is where you operate. If the church, if the Seventh-day Adventist church took all of its 501c3 assets, all its pews and microphones and equipment and sold it to the 508c ministry trust, if someone breaks their leg here, knocks over, falls over, and busts their head on the side of the pew and down to the white meat and bleeds to death because they tripped on some carpet, they'll pay up to the amount of the insurance, but can't get a dime of the assets of the church because they're not in the church's name. They're in the trust. Well, I wish I had a witness. Yeah, okay. All right, so y'all get the point. Y'all get the point? So you can start a 501c3. You can start a 508c ministry trust, a jail ministry, 508c ministry, jail ministry, hello, knock, knock, who's home? 508c ministry trust, that is a 508c ministry trust with all the assets and everything in it and operate fluidly through society and have to worry about lawsuits. Okay? Y'all hear me? All right. Okay. Any questions about any of that or any of the trust, everything I've said already? Y'all still have not heard about the spendthrift clause, and Russell is going to engage you in that just a little bit here. He's going to put that up on the screen and let you see that firsthand. You don't want to miss that, because when you see those 12 things, I promise you, those 12 things in that spendthrift clause, that's in all 4 of the trusts that we offer: the family trust, the business trust, the investment trust, and the private foundation trust. The 4 trusts that our company offers, you want, if you're in business, you definitely want all 4 of those trusts. If you're not in business and you're retired, you probably only want to get the family trust, maybe the investment trust if you have some investments and things like that, property, land, Airbnb, those kind of things. And guess what, y'all? Just as of this week, you can pay for the trust in Bitcoin, because we made that available through Bitcoin, our Bitcoin wallet for our company. So now the modern folk who deal in Bitcoin, we have some people that are millionaires in Bitcoin, and they can get their trust by paying through the wallet for their Bitcoin, for their trust. And by the way, if you have investments in Bitcoin, that's a bull run right now going on, and it's really been elevated a lot. Anybody testify? It's been going. Boy, whoo, my goodness, skyrocketing right now. Almost over 100,000. It's never been that way this past week. Can you imagine? Only a few years ago, like a year or so ago, it was 60,000. Now it's 100,000. Ooh, when they first started, oh my goodness. I had a doctor friend of mine who was one of our, he's an anesthesiologist, and he had purchased it when it was 12,000 back in the day, and within 3 years, he made over $120,000 per Bitcoin. He had 2. He bought 2 of them for $12K, and they were each worth over over $65,000 a piece. Anyway, that's just another food for thought. But you can put that in your investment trust, and guess what, y'all? Woo! Here's another game. You pay no capital gains tax because of the irrevocable common law trust. I didn't say that loud enough. I'm going to say it one more time. I want you to hear me. If you sell a home out of your name. If you sell a home, you own a home? Do you own a home? You don't own a home yet? Working on it? Okay. All right, just wanted to check. All right. If you own a home and you choose to sell it, do not sell it out of your social. Put it into the trust. Now, if you're still paying a mortgage on a home, you're not going to sell it to the trust. You're going to convey it to the trust, meaning you're going to give it to the trust with a quick claim deed with no warranty on it. A quick claim deed with no warranty on it. So you don't alert the bank and make them disturbed because you don't got a trust. And you doing what now? We're going to call for the note. We want all our money right now because we don't know what you're getting ready to do. But with a no warranty deed, that means that you can still be the lien holder, but you ain't got to worry about me no more because my trust on this. My part, bank obligation, the trust owns you now. And when I'm done with this, guess what? All of it's going in my trust. So now I'm on the record of paying you the bill, but I ain't even paying the bill out of my personal account anymore. My trust is paying the bill. And in the spendthrift clause, you can write off your electricity, your water, your gas, any improvements to the property, added a pool, put a roof on, added a room, 100% tax deduction. Y'all hear me? That's how the rich operate. Vehicle, tire rotations, oil change, the transmission went out, got to replace it. 100% tax deduction. Life insurance, 100% tax reduction. Wellness program includes all your diet for the whole year. How much y'all spend on groceries? The whole year. Plus your gym membership, plus your massages. Hey, I'm for massages. Our massage company, all right? Medical massage company, you know. Guess what? 100% tax write-off for your wellness program. 100% write-off of your contributions. So if I give $20,000 from my trust to the church, and that's my contribution to the church through my tithe and offering, I did it through my trust. In the next year, 100% write-off of contributions. So that which I've given to the church comes back to me 100%. And I can turn around and give it right back to them. Rinse and repeat every year. George, rinse and repeat every year. Keep doing the same thing over and over again. 100% return on your contributions to the spendthrift clause of your family trust. Never pay your tithe and offering. Pastor, you're going to have a bunch of trust people paying tithe and offering with their trust. As long as you get it right. For a 100% tax right. Pastor, I think that this is a godsend. I think that by the end of this is all over, I think you're going to have that center before y'all, sooner than y'all thought. All right. Go ahead. Comment? Go ahead. Question, comment? Go ahead. You go ahead. Come back to you. Okay, come back to you. Okay, all right. So, are y'all getting the picture now? Now, mind you, I'm only telling you in words. We have the slides for the screen, and Russell's going to go over there to show you on the slides, but I want to verbally engage you to hear and put it up here in your mind before we see it on the slide. I'm telling you in advance what's up here, what's there for your learning and for your understanding. Is that okay? All right. Any questions that you have for me so far? So we've gone over the family trust. We've gone over the private foundation, the investment trust. I've told you a little bit about that. That means that everything that you put in your investment trust, your properties, everything like that, if you sell a property, never sell it out of your Social Security number. Sell it out of your trust, and you will avoid any capital gains tax. Watch this. Now, I'm getting ready to go to another level. I have 5 sons, and I'm going to make sure that all 5 of them have their own trust, at least a family trust, so that when something and if something happens to my wife and I, God forbid. I want to be with her for many, many years. Hopefully I've lived those fellows, but we just never know. Anyway. Anything, when we pass away, it will go to their trust. No capital gains tax. That's why it's necessary for your adult grown kids to have their own trust. Don't just be waiting on mom and daddy like vultures in the air waiting for you to fall. Get your own trust. Get your house in order, son, daughter. Have them get their own trust. Okay? And that way, because of the taxes. Because they're going to, if they inherit $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, they're going to have to pay on their 1040 side. They got to report it to the IRS at the 37% level, the highest tax possible. Why would you give away the family wealth that way? Why would you do that? And you don't have to. Why would you give 10% away to the state? Why would you give 20% away to the state? Haven't you paid them enough all your life? And you want to pay them even in your death? Foolishness. Foolishness. They don't have to have it, but it's wise to have it. There's no taxes if they have their own trust. Trust to trust. No taxes. Trust to social, taxpayer. You take cryptocurrency and you transfer it into USDT, 100%, you're going to pay the taxes. Capital gains tax. Okay? Like one guy I found out recently who had lots and lots of Bitcoin and transferred it back to USDT to pay for something in USDT and got hit with a $300,000 capital gains tax. Just gave it up. What can you buy with $300,000? Maybe another house, another asset or something like that. But you're going to give $300,000 as a gift to the government? Thank you very much. We love printing money. And we like yours. Why would you do that? When you can have 100% transfer from one trust to another trust with no capital gains. It just makes sense. All right, question. Go ahead. Comment.
Elder, I know we said about you transferring your membership, but that may or may not happen. So do you have like classes or something, or do you have like you can training or something that that someone can be interested in taking?
Very good question, Pastor. Thank you for asking that. You're prompting me. That's good. Mondays and Tuesdays, y'all, listen to me carefully. We have an educational presentation every Monday from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Central Time. If you're interested in getting more information and details, don't let this be word salad to you, what I'm telling you. Be able to document it and to formulate yourself. Listen more to this information, and it'll kill it for you. Anything, you can learn almost anything if you put your time and attention to it. And once you know it, you will never forget it, and you'll be able to teach it and pass it on like generational wealth, generational information that needs to be transferred to our loved ones, our children, our children's children. Teach them, train up a child in the way he should go. And when he is old, he won't depart from it because the trust ain't going to let him. Y'all hear me? You will always remember mom and dad, grandma, grandpa, auntie, uncle took care of business because they had their house in order, not disorder and chaos. You die suddenly of a heart attack or a stroke, and no one knows where anything is when they rummaging through your belongings at your home and this stuff and that stuff, and don't even know where the stuff is found because you ain't told them. And you ain't going to die one day sooner because you have it set up. So stop procrastinating. Procrastination is your danger, is your enemy. Is your enemy. Do y'all hear me? Procrastination is your enemy. Quit kicking the can down the road thinking you're going to live forever. You're getting old. Accept it. and be proactive and do something about it before it's everlasting too late. Because the moment you have that stroke and the moment that you're incapacitated, the buck stops there. When you can no longer say or do anything about your estate, it's a wrap. If your mental condition and you've been diagnosed with Alzheimer's or dementia, it's a wrap. You're done. You're frozen in time, though you're living, and you may live another 10 years like that, but there's not a thing anybody can do about your estate because you didn't plan anything. You didn't set it up. You waited too late, and it's a done deal. Do it while the pastors say, while the blood is running warm through your veins, while the nerves are pulsating through your 5-pound brain. Get her done as quickly as you can, and you'll never, ever regret it. And when I'm flying on the plane, going to California with my wife and I'm thinking to myself, if this plane goes down, praise God, our house is in order. That I'm with my honey, and the last thing I'm going to do is give her some serious sugar and a big old hug as the plane crashes, as macabre as that might sound. But I'm with the love of my life. Yes, I love my children. Yes, I love my grandchildren. Yes, I love eventually my great-grandchildren. But I love my wife. My best friend, my ride or die, my boon coon, all that good stuff. My apple pie with a nice crust. I love my wife. So at the last of it all, I can smile with grace because my trust is in my son's hands and my life is in the hands of God. Though he slay me, yet will I trust him. Into thy hands I commend my spirit. Have the peace in mind that you need. Like getting your house in order is a final appeal to your heart and to your wallet. If you got the courage, and the gumption to dare to be different for your generation, to make the difference, to plant a seed deep into your generational root grounds. No one knows the tears you cry at night. In the darkness of the night when you're praying, in the darkness of the night, the roots are growing deep into the ground before there's a sprout that ever appears above the ground. But when it does, it's because the roots are wide enough to sustain the foundation of the size and the height of the tree that shall grow above. And one day, that fruit-bearing tree will bear fruits. It only takes a fool to know how many seeds is in one apple. But it takes a God to know how many seeds is in an apple tree. And like Johnny Apple seeds, every single one of those pieces of fruit, inside of it is a seed for another tree. How many forests of generational wealth can you build by structuring your life the right, proper way through the kind of trust I'm talking about? If you're willing and obedient, you shall eat the good of the land. If you refuse and rebel, you shall be devoured by the sword. If it seem evil unto you to serve the Lord, then choose you this day whom you will serve, whether the gods which your fathers served, which were before the flood or before slavery, in whose land they dwelled. But as for me and my Father's house, we will serve the Lord. As for me and my house, we will break generational curses that are plagued our generations for eons before the great passage to this country and beyond. The question is, can you and will you make the difference that is the difference that counts for your next generation? And if not, then what's your purpose? Get yourself a checkup from the neck up and discover what it is you need to do God's will for your children and your children's children, because a good man and a good woman, single or married, leaves an inheritance for their children's children. And the wealth of the wicked is laid up for the just. But did you know that the children of the world are wiser than the children of light for a reason? The reason is they know about this trust and you don't, until today. It's been passed down for them generations, and they've taken advantage of it. And it's about time you do the same. And if you're so inclined, how many would love, whether at the end you can find out whether you can afford it today, this week, tomorrow, whatever. We're only going to set up a few more before this year is out. You have until the 15th of this year if you want to take advantage of the things this year to get it done this year. The 15th, we develop them in 2 weeks. We can develop them for you within 2 weeks, and everything is done and delivered to you before the 31st of this year. But it must be done before the 15th of this month in order for it to be registered for this year. But if you're foregoing this year and you just want to get prepared for next year, that's fine. It's understandable. We can develop it for you still, and you can go into January 2025 with a newfound way of doing things, dealing with things, mitigating your taxes and everything else for the new year. Question, go ahead. And then I'm going to close with my part, and then Russell's going to come before you. And I hope that y'all have the patience of the saints, because y'all want to hear the rest of this. It's only going to be about 35, 40 minutes. When they tell you, because I already told you everything you need to know right now. This is a close, y'all. Y'all have told y'all everything y'all need to know. Only thing that you don't know right now is how much does this cost? How much can you get it? Can you get it? Will you get it? How you get it? And is there financing? All that kind of stuff and so forth. How do you obtain it? And those kind of things. We're amicable. We work with families. Everybody is on a case-by-case basis. Some can go in and they just pay for it and get the trust done. Others have a process that they have to go through to kind of afford to get it, just like you buy a car note. You can buy the car, put the down payment down, and drive off with the car with the keys and pay it by and by as you go. We do something similar with the trust as well, okay? So I don't want anybody, when you see the price, don't be sticker shocked by it. Know that that's what it takes to obtain it. And if you don't want it, you ain't got to have it. But I'm telling you right now, you will eventually pay for it anyway, whether you like it or not. I would rather pay these prices right now for what we got, because the price is eventually going to go up. Because I told you, we can't be the Walmart of trust, because it won't be respected in the marketplace. Do you understand that? We can't offer this so below the market value that when they see it and they see that's a joke and they're suspicious, there's something is wrong with this. It's too cheap. And y'all ain't nothing cheap about what we do. Because let me tell you something that we do that no other company does. This is our brand. We are a church of the book. We are a church that studies. We take our clients and we stay with them 12 to 18 months, educating them about this trust. Every nuance of this trust you can learn about. You're not going to get that with any company of its kind in the entire United States. You're not going to get it without a price. All of our stuff is included in what you pay for the trust. You're paying for an education almost to become an expert at trust. Even if you don't want to, you will. Because you just have to, it's a learning curve. And you'll learn it, know it, understand it, and practice it and do it in your family and be very richly blessed as a result of it. You will not get that with any other company, because what you'll get is that they'll charge you, you'll get the trust set up, it'll set on the shelf until you die. Listen to me. It was set on a shelf until you die, collecting dust, and the family members go in to dust it off and find it when they do find it. No education for the passing on of your generational wealth. They don't know what you're doing, have no clue what mama signed and daddy signed, auntie, uncle, grandma, grandpa signed. They have no idea. But we have a trust certification program for successor trustees and successor compliance officers and beneficiaries so that everybody knows what's going on and why. And they have access to our portal of getting the education that they need so that they know what mom and daddy is doing and why. It's no secret. Only thing the beneficiary can't change a thing in that trust. An irrevocable common law trust doesn't mean nothing can be changed in it. Nothing can be changed to the corpus of the trust, but you can add assets to it. Every time you buy a property, every time you buy land, every time you add some crypto, every time you add any assets investment-wise, you can add it to the corpus of the trust with a notary, period. Unlike a living trust that freezes all your assets the day you sign it, and nothing else is going in that trust, all the rest of it is going to go in a will until you die. And guess what? That's the legal engagement of the attorney right there for administrative fees and 33% of your estate. With this trust, no administrative fees are necessary because all the I's are dotted and all the T's are crossed. And when you get through, when you have said your last word, prayed your last prayer, sung your last song, breathed your last breath, it's in good hands with your next child, beneficiary, successor, whomever that you have assigned, smoothly goes right over into their trust, right over into their pocket. No issues, no attorney necessary, and no capital gains tax, inheritance tax of the 12 taxes that you will be taxed on. None of that stuff applies to this trust. Can we say praise God? Praise God. Now, if that ain't a wealth transfer and you got something different, please feel my ear and my heart. I want to know about it. But this one thing I know, this that we are sharing with you today, you probably want to hear it again unless you invite me back again. We might tell you a little bit some updates, Pastor. That's about it. I saw a hand, and then I'm going to close with that. Go ahead, my dear.
My question is, what is the benefit of doing it this December versus next year?
Some of the things, like, for example, when you get this trust, the entire amount that you pay for the trust is a complete tax write-off next year.
So if you get it before December 31st, then, right, well, he said it has to be finished by the 31st. You have to get it before by the 15th. And then it takes 2 weeks, so then that's 31st. And then, so you're saying in January you can use it as a tax write-off?
Yes, you can use it as a 100% tax write-off because we have our Ariel Comer is our attorney who's licensed in common law, licensed in Texas real estate, and licensed in Texas law as well. Okay. She's one of a few attorneys that's licensed in common law. As I said, 99.9% of attorneys in this country are not licensed in common law and will have no clue what you're talking about if you go to a master. Can you set me up with a common law trust? Like what? Common law trust? What is that? Irrevocable common law? No, we don't do that. But I can set you up with a trust, though, called a living trust, and a will, and take 33% that I'm not going to tell you about. I can do that. Yes. How much is a living trust? Oh, those living trusts in this room are forbidden. Oh, irrevocable common law trust. Okay, all right. Okay, all right. Okay, it was past the Sabbath. Well, yeah, goodness. Okay, we got there. Okay, all right. Come back tomorrow for breakfast, and it will tell you. Well, Russell, let me ask you something. Do you want to go ahead and show them now? I do too. Who's smelling that good? Man, you smell good. All right. I keep walking by here, and I keep doing like this. And send that over to my wife. That's a good smell. All right, okay. Okay, any questions? Anybody else so far? All right, okay, yes. Microphone? Hey, thank you, my friend. If you're willing to come back to breakfast in the morning, we got you. Okay? All right. Question? Go ahead. Sorry. What state are you from? You moving from Kentucky? Kentucky is a statutory state in Washington, D.C. Right. But you will be required to pay state taxes unless you have this type of trust. You can avoid that. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. I don't want to wear out the patience of the saints. I have kind of worn you a little bit. You've heard me talk all day from Sabbath schools, 11 o'clock hour to now. You're about tired of me now. You don't know me like that, but I get it that I wanted to spend some time with you to try to get you a chance to know who we are, trust who we are, understand who we are and what we do. And I hope and pray that it has been good enough for you. But I've done a lot of the talking, and Russell needs to do some talking to you because Russell has another level of expertise that I don't have that I am very proud to introduce because to introduce to some and present to others. And I know this wears on you a little bit. Can I get 20 more minutes out of y'all or 30 more minutes out of y'all? Is that possible? Raise your hand if that's possible. Now, if it's not possible and you're tired and you're weary and you're ready to choke and croak, I get it.
Mr. John.
Anybody? Okay. All right, go ahead. Pastor Russell, is it queued up already?
Yes.
Okay, let's get ready for that.
But I just want to say, seriously, I did not know what to expect. Once again, Sister Goodlow, thank you for introduction. He's my new brother now, amen. My new brother from another mother. But thank you all for coming out this afternoon, because not just does you show up, but here's the thing. Like my brother said, we perish for lack of knowledge. And I truly believe a lot of us have been so focused on Jesus' return that we forgot about tarrying till he comes.
Right.
And what happens is in this season, this is a new season, there's a shift in the atmosphere. I want you to be blessed. I really do, because when we're blessed, we get to be a blessing to somebody else. So thank you again for showing up. Tell a friend, tell a family member. So thank you for coming again.
Amen. You're welcome, and thank y'all all for having me so far. Russell, come on up here right now. Again, this young man, you want to get to know who he is. You'll see more of him. His company is the platform that does the trust. We market it. Our marketing company, Wajane Financial Solutions. Wajane, for y'all that didn't hear the definition of it, it means God has graciously affirmed this business as it works in harmony with the community. That's what Wajane means. It's a coined word. The W-A is from Washington for my wife and I's last name, the W-A, which is Japanese, which means one who is works in harmony with the community, or one who is prefers the community over oneself. And John, J-O-N, is Hebrew. That represents the short name for Jonathan in the Bible, which means God has been gracious or God has shown favor. And then A-Y, is a representation of English. The A's have it and the nays don't. And so it's the affirmation of vote. And so the compository meaning is that God has graciously affirmed our business as it works in harmony with the community. So we have our Wajane Massage business, and we have our Wajane Financial Solutions business. And so I hope that we have been able to give you some solutions to some of the problems you have thought of today, and I hope it solves your problem, and I hope the confirmation of that solution will also be realized right now. So this is Succeed Consulting Firm. Hear ye the further word of the Lord, and I want you to take out your phones, take out your notepad, and I want you to document some of the things he's getting ready to show you on this slide presentation right here. Please pay attention, because you are going to be blessed to hear some of these things. Russell, would you do me a favor? We've already talked about a little bit of that part. Would you skip some of most of it and go to two things I think are key? Go and show them the spendthrift clause, that immediately, the benefits of the spendthrift clause, and then go to the estate planning part.
All right, y'all. Thank you. Give it up for John Washington, man. I mean, I really don't have to say anything. He pretty much put it down. So thank you so much, John. Thank you, Pastor, for allowing us to be here. You know, Succeed is just a company that we want everybody to benefit from. The name and the logo was made by, believe it or not, a kid with autistic had autism, And that's where you see that logo is. He created it. When you heard me talk about it in 2008, he just popped up with a logo. And we've been using it ever since. I'm so thankful that I love the Lord. I'm so thankful that he's taken us this far. This information that you're going to see, I didn't get to read it in a book. I didn't get it from no school. Even though I have a master's degree in business, they didn't teach nothing about estate planning. Trust me, not even starting your own business. This information was downloaded to me. What do you mean? Just getting these revelations that early in the morning, write this down. Ask this question. Find out the answer to this question. Just those things. That's what's happening. This is what has developed over the course of those things. So I don't have a clicker. I'm just going to run through these. I'm gonna depend on my guy up there. We're just going to run through these real quick. We're going to get to the slides that John want to get to, and we'll get out your hair. All right, so let's go to the next slide. Succeed Consulting Firm is a firm. We have a well put together team. Like John said, we have an attorney that's licensed in both Washington, D.C. and Texas. Like John said, most attorneys are not licensed in Washington, D.C. All right, but Washington, D.C. has a bar, okay? So you can go look that up. We're well represented. We can go to our next slide. Over the last 8 years, I've been dedicating my life to estate planning and trust. I want to know everything I can about trust because, again, this is the instrument that's not left with any information. When you go buy a trust from an attorney, they do not educate you, okay? It is purposely done because that's the ploy so that they can take advantage of their family after your death. If they were to educate you on it, then they couldn't take advantage of the family, okay? So this is what they're doing, right? So I want to make sure that we kind of go a different way. We're not a law firm, but we hired our own attorneys. See? So that makes us a little bit different, right? So my objective here is to keep all of your money in your pocket. When you pass away, you should have the right, you should have the knowledge to know that every single penny can stay in your family. You don't have to give your money to the state. You don't have to give your money to the attorneys. And you don't have to give most of your money to the IRS. That's our right to know, and that's under common law. Let's go to the next slide. And we're just going to keep going real quick. John already talked about taxation. That's a major problem of the day. That's the one major problem against your entire estate. You pay taxes, your wife pay taxes, your kids going to pay, everybody pay taxes, okay? If you don't minimize them, then you're not going to be able to build generational wealth. Let's go to the next slide, okay? Keep going, keep going, keep going. All right, probate is another major issue. So you got the IRS as a main threat, then the state is another major threat, okay? They're there to take money after your death. Number 3, let's keep going, keep going, keep going. And then there's the lawsuits. That's where the attorneys come in. The state allows people to sue you with accusations. All I got to do is accuse you of something. You got to go force to defend yourself, right? You cannot build generational wealth like that. The problem with this is that our lawsuits are tied directly to our assets. See, back in the day, when you messed up or you did something wrong, they wanted your certitude. They wanted you to go serve somebody for 7 years. But what's replaced that is your assets. So if you do something wrong, they don't want you to come serve them for 7 years. They just want what you have. So that's what the problem is with lawsuits. Next, okay? Healthcare, like John said, you can't even qualify for Medicaid if you have assets in your name. I have a minor in healthcare administration. When I was working in the nursing home in college, I was wondering why we couldn't get into the nursing home. It took us a while to get us into the nursing home, while white folks would come to the nursing home and get right in. I was like, what is going on? 45, 60 days later, we show up. What's going on? Well, we had assets in our names, and we couldn't qualify for the Medicaid benefit. We had to go get them assets out of our names and then come back for the care that we needed. But what happens if you need immediate care? See, that's when the medical institutions is in on it, and they're going to tell you to liquidate your property. See? Because you don't have time to move it out of your name. This is all predicated on not planning for your life. They have put all this around because you have decided you're not going to plan. So now with you not planning, you have all these threats against your estate. Next slide, quick. 350 million people live here. There's only 3 to 5% of people that control the entire country. These 3 to 5% of people that control the country, y'all, don't pay taxes legally. We can't get mad at Donald Trump. He didn't implement that. That was already in before he was it was already there. Okay? They've been doing this, right? So there's only 3 to 5% of Americans that live off interest, while us are making money off the government and labor. Do you think that's purposely done? Yes. Because all they got to do is turn the lights off. They got to stop. One check, you're done. If the government don't come through for January of 2025 for 50% of all Americans, what happens? Okay? It's just like that. Like John said, we're one check away. Let's go to the next slide real quick. So in order to build generational wealth, you got to understand these principles. Real quick, number one, you got to put things into money or things that do not lose money. But the reason why we're here today is that I want to make sure everybody understands very clear that number 3, access is better than ownership. Ownership is a lie. If you are a Christian, you should know that. There's only one owner, right? Last time I checked, you came in this world with nothing, and you're going to leave here with nothing. So why are we playing this game called ownership? Well, you don't own nothing. And all you can do is manage the assets that God has put in front of you. So let's not get this twisted. We need to have access, Pastor, not ownership, okay? We need to make sure our money's in things that are stable, not inflatable. Do you know that the wealthy don't have inflation? Did y'all hear me? They don't experience inflation. They don't experience depreciation. How do you not experience inflation? Well, when you go buy the car, Pastor, off the lot, okay? Everybody knows that the car what? Depreciates, right? As soon as you drive it off, right? Everybody knows that, right? But what do the wealthy do? Before they drive it off, they already got a bill of sale to their trust. Y'all didn't even hear me. So if the car costs $40,000, they already sold the car to the trust for $40,000, Doc. Now, when they drive off the lot, it don't matter. I already got a contract with the trust for $40,000. And whether I actually get my money the next day, a year later, 5 years later, or even 10 years later, I still get my $40,000. No inflation. Did you hear me? By making sure you don't own anything. You only have access to the things. No inflation. Look, double taxation is real. You take money in your name and you give more than $600 to somebody else. See, y'all thought that Zelles were put in place and Cash Apps for your convenience. Y'all thought that was, I could easily move money to my friend easily. They're tracking you. Everything over $600 that you give to somebody is now going to become income. See? So now somebody said about life insurance. Why should we not have a life insurance policy in a person's name or a beneficiary be a person? Okay, well, it's not taxable, we know that. But if a person get $100,000 from a life insurance policy, they got $100,000 in their account. They didn't get taxed. But the moment they move money to somebody else, Doc, they tax. See? Double taxation. The only instrument that cannot be double taxed, y'all, is the common law irrevocable trust. Okay? You move your life insurance policy monies in the trust, so it don't matter at that point. Got it? Look, credit versus debit. Y'all, you ever wonder why there was an option at the pump? Why they say put credit or debit? Everybody know what that is? Well, credit is the key to building generational wealth. What you're doing is when you're pushing debit, you're telling the bank, I'm not a planner. And there's data being built on you. And who is going to come after people that are not planners? Well, let me tell you, the state and the attorneys, because they have records on you that show that you're not going to plan for your estate. You don't use credit, okay? Then again, we're going to make sure compound versus simple. We only use EIN numbers versus socials. You do not want to take nothing in your name. right? And we use the state versus probate. Next slide, please. So double taxation is real. Keep going, one more time. Go back, one more slide. What I want to show to everybody is this. If you go through the state is their own jurisdiction. Texas has its own jurisdiction. It has its rights to make its own laws. So if you let a state or an attorney set up your trust, where are they putting your actual jurisdiction of that trust in? The state that they're what? Licensed in. The state that they're licensed in. They can't put it in no other state. They got to put it in the jurisdiction that they're licensed in. So when they do that, now it becomes a public record. You won't have no privacy when you do a living trust or a will, okay? It's public. That's what we just said. They can talk about it on the golf course now, right? They can see what you got. But what if there was a way that you can hold all your assets on the private side without the state knowing, without any attorneys knowing? Then they don't want your assets because they don't know about them, right? So there's a big difference between being double taxed and, again, basically the state versus the actual federal. Let's go to the next slide. Okay? The reason why we got to go all the way back here is because you got to understand where you live at. Do you guys know you live in a unique place? It's called the United States of what? Y'all don't know what that really means, though. Okay? Who knows that back in Christ's day, Christ had a problem with taxation? Does anybody know that? Is it documented in the book? Yes, it is. Who are the same people taxing Christ or the same people that's taxing you? See, this map proves it that common law, there's only 3 countries in the world that started as a common law system. Common law means that we're free from taxation. That's why there's only 9 states in the United States of America that are common law states. Can you believe that Georgia charges an income tax? You got to pay federal tax. Then you got to turn around and pay state tax on 41 states. You have X amount of dollars in your personal account? Mm-hmm. Yeah, they can't hear you on the hold on.
Suppose I have X amount of dollars tied up in Fidelity.
Okay.
And been with them about 12 years, and I want to move all of it out into a trust. Is that possible?
Well, that's going to be a very good question because, again, you started the investment in your social. See? That's where the problem is, y'all. That's why we have an investment trust. So from now on, and you're teaching your kids and your kids' kids, we do not do investments in our socials because of what he just said. You have no option but to take it out in your name. Okay?
But there's a caveat to that. If you take it out in your name, as it is, yes, you will experience a penalty for doing so before you put it in your investment trust, but we have also an investment strategy for your trust. And when you see what our investment strategy is for your trust, in 6 months' time, whatever you will penalize, in 6 months to 6 months to 12 months, whatever you've seen in the penalty phase of that, you will more than make up the difference for that.
And that includes the 59.5.
Absolutely, absolutely. Anything that you lose in that transition from your social to your trust, you will more than make up the ground for that. Okay? So don't worry about that. That goes for any of you who have 401ks and any of those kind of things like that. Do not worry about the penalties that you experience for taking it out of your name, your social, and putting it in your trust. We have a strategy for you that we're not even teaching you that today and tonight, but we will teach you that, what that strategy is. We can't tell you everything, otherwise you'll throw up tonight. Can't have nobody throwing up tonight. What's wrong with y'all? All right.
All right, y'all. So we are in a common law state. The reason why our forefathers came to the United States of America, Canada, and Australia these were the only provinces that were not under Roman control. Did y'all hear me? Did everybody understand that Rome ruled the entire world at one point? These were the only 3 provinces that were not actually under their control. Next slide. So now we live in common law. What is common law? Common law is the law of judges. How am I going to prove to you that we live in a common law country? Well, there's 9 people that sit in something called the Supreme Court. Has anybody heard of that? And every time they make a ruling, guess what happens? I don't care what state you in. I don't care what city you in, what county you in. You have to adhere to the federal laws of the Supreme Court. That's how you know that you're in a common law country, okay? Not the state law. Who supersedes the state? The federal. Well, these 9 justices, every time they make a ruling, you have to follow that law. That's how we know we're in common law. Next slide. Statutory law, civil law is law by the UCC, by the state. Okay, they have their own laws, their own codes, their own ordinances. You must follow them to avoid penalty. Next slide. All right, so I'll make sure our country, anybody understands that we're not set up with states. Was there a state here when our country was set up? There was not one state. So why do we think state law is, we go to a state attorneys to create everything? Well, they weren't even here first. So why do we think that? This country was started with 13 unions, all right? And the 13 unions came together to form the Constitution, which is a trust. How do I know it's a trust? Trust does 3 things. Number 1, it protects boundary. Number 2, it protects property. And number 3, it protects assets. So that's why you operate under a private common law. That's why nobody can just run up on your property. That's why everything on your property is what? Private property, right? That's a common law provision. That's not from the statutory or state laws, all right? Next slide. This is what brings in the public sector. The state is what brought in the public sector. The state is the one that brought in actually the statutory and civil laws. The state is the one that makes you register. So when you actually register an LLC, C Corp, S Corp, nonprofit, no matter what, it's under the state statutory laws. Okay? That's the public record or the public sector, they call it. Next slide. But can you imagine that you can hold your assets in a private sector? What do you mean? Well, if my assets are going to be tied to anybody that's trying to sue me, then why would I want to hold them in the public sector? I can hold my assets in the private sector to where now basically none of my assets are at risk for a lawsuit. So my business assets, my family assets, my investment assets, even my charitable assets can be held on the private side so that nobody can sue them. Does that make sense? I don't care what you do. So you can sue me all you want. I don't have nothing in my name. Came here with nothing, I'm leaving here with nothing, right? Same thing for you. Next slide. So the government is 3 branches. We know that: judicial, legislative, and executive. The only branch that operates under common law is the judicial branch, which is the Supreme Court. Now let's make sure that we understand what's going on. 1894, they ruled that it's unconstitutional to tax you. 1913, they came back and said, can we tax individuals again? They said no. It's still unconstitutional. So how are you being taxed right now? Why are you paying taxes? Well, they did the most unconstitutional thing that they could do. They turned you in from an individual to a corporation. You're not an individual to the government no more. You're a corporation. How can I prove it? Well, your Social Security number is a corporation. The first thing they taught me in my master's degree program was anything that's all in capital letters represents a what, y'all? Go look at your driver's license. Go look at your Social Security card. Go look at every bill they send to your house. It's all in capital letters. Now that gives them the right to tax you because you're taking money through their corporation called a Social Security number. Okay? So, again, that's why you're being taxed again, because we were a corporation. Next slide. But when you operate with a common law trust, I want to make sure everybody understands this. You have the right to go into a private contract. Everybody say private contract. Private contract means that I can go into a contract with you, you can go in contract with me without no state interference. Let me prove it to you. Can you sell your house without having to have a real estate agent? Why? Oh, because you had the right to go into a what? A private contract. Everybody see that? You don't have to get a state licensed official in your business to sell your home. That's common law, okay? So if that be the case, we're able to operate with a common law trust where we don't have to have no state interference. If you got state interference, you got to pay state fees. You got attorney interference, you got to pay attorneys. And let's just face it, when you die, the last thing a person is thinking about is paying somebody. Come on. Or trying to go meet with an attorney to figure out what you... And let me just tell you what happens. Most people are so depressed, they just forfeit the assets, y'all. They just don't even care. But that's what you left. Okay? So we have to do better by how we're leaving things, right? Article 1 of Section 10 of the Constitution says that everybody has the right to go into a private contract. That means I can go into a private contract with you, Montoya. I can go into a private contract with you. It doesn't matter. We have the right to enter into private contracts. We don't have to have state laws or state government intervention. Next slide. Okay, so why does everybody need to trust? John said people that need this trust only 50, what did you say, 50 million? That's the biggest trick. Yeah, that's the biggest trick. While they were trying to get you to think about 50 million, they're trying to get you not to think that you are the one that spend the most money on assets. See, we buy the most assets, right? But we don't know how to protect them. So we buy them, and this is the state, this is what they do. They let you buy it, go ahead and buy it. Here, you want some money, go fix it up, go fix it up. Go fix it up. But we know you're not a planner. So by the time you didn't fix it up for the next generation, we take it. So we just let you go fix up everything. We let you build up the state of Texas. Y'all see how many freeways out here? Y'all see how many buildings out there? They just let y'all build it all up, and the state just come back and take it. That's the game, okay? So the reason why you need a trust is because you have to put yourself in a position where you own nothing and control everything. You're going to leave this world with nothing. There's no U-Haul behind your funeral parade. There's no storage at your funeral grave. There's not. You're not taking none of this stuff with you, so stop pretending that we are, right? We got to be managers, so that means we have to own nothing so that we can control and manage the things that God has put in front of us. At the same time, we have the responsibility to protect what God has put in front of us. Am I right? We're leaving things vulnerable to the state to take it, right? We need the maximum privacy. We need to avoid the probate. We need to avoid frivolous lawsuits. We need to be taxable. Our income needs to be, again, optimized. And again, we don't need to take as much money in this social. The reason why wealthy people can still qualify for Medicaid, y'all, billionaires can still qualify for Medicaid. Why? Because the assets are not in their names. Now, if you got a car in your name, you got a house in your name, you got insurance in your name, you got all this. Just those three. Let's just talk with those three. House, car, insurance. $2,000 house note, $500 car note, $500 in insurance. That's $3,000 a year. Am I right? $3,000 a month. Am I right? That forces you to take $36,000 a year just to maintain those three assets. Well, what's the tax rate on $36,000? You want me to tell you? 24%. See? So just to maintain them three assets, you're taxed on it. But what if the trust maintains the house? Come on, y'all. What if the trust maintains the car? Trust maintains the insurance. Now you just lowered your liability or taxes or income by $36,000. You don't need to take $36,000 no more in your Social Security number name. So that lowers you and protects you, right? So you don't have to pay much tax. Next slide. So lawsuits are real. Again, if you don't understand, they can pierce your corporate veil. What does that mean? If you have more damage than basically you're insured on, they're coming into your personal assets. They're coming into your business assets. If you sue for $5 million and your insurance is only $1 million, you $4 million short. They come in and figure out what they can liquidate that's tied to your what? Social Security number. All right? So the reason why this trust works best, next slide, for everybody is because it has the ultimate asset protection. This trust is not attached to your social. Everybody hear me? This trust is not attached to what? If it's not attached to your social, can they tax you for what's in the trust? Wow, that's simple. Very, very simple, okay? I don't care if it's a lien, tax judgment. I don't care if it's a divorce decree. I don't care if it's child support. I don't care if it's creditors. I don't even care if it's the IRS, y'all. Did y'all hear me? They cannot touch what's in this trust. Mm-hmm.
For those of you who are single, it's the best prenup agreement that you'll ever have in your life. just saying. if you get one of the trusts, before you get married or whatever, all your stuff is already protected for life. Okay, and any other thing that you add on to that, you put it in the trust. Now, anything you gather together as your new relationship and everything like that, then of course it has to be a conveyance between the two of you, an agreement between the two of you. But if it's done prior to, then it's all the individual that experiences that. Okay? All right? All right.
Okay. All right. And then next slide. All right. So I want to make sure everybody understands where your jurisdiction of this trust is at. It's in the U.S. District Court and the U.S. Tax Courts. What makes it difficult for statutory attorneys to attack your trust is because they have to come to Washington, D.C. to sue it. Okay? Now, that's difficult in itself. So what's going to happen is if somebody wants to bring trumped up charges against some of the assets in your trust, they got to come to Washington, D.C. to do it. Now, let's just say that somebody violates your assets in Texas. Somebody violates your assets, Matoya, in Texas. Well, guess what? Texas has a district federal court. So you can sue them in Texas, but you can't be sued in Texas. Can everybody hear what I just said? It's a titanium vault. They can't sue you in Texas, but you can do the suing in Texas, all right? So the district court says, hey, look, all court fees have to be paid in full before we even look at trying the case. Did y'all hear me? So while we're messing with statutory attorneys here, what happens here is that somebody can go drop a down payment on a statutory attorney. Bro, they can put $2,000 down and say, I'll pay the rest out to go sue you. And now you got a lawsuit against you. There's no frivolous lawsuits like that in the federal system, y'all. You can't do that. The court fees have to be paid in full. Therefore, it's going to eliminate a lot of little frivolous little lawsuits that's going to come around. Next slide. All right, so this goes all the way back to legislation. I want you to know that this is in law. It's in federal law, not state, federal. Joseph Kennedy made sure that there was never going to be a generation skipping tax if he moved money from trust to trust. If you move money from trust to individual, you're going to be taxed. But if you move money from trust to trust, there's no generation skipping tax. Mitt Romney wanted to make sure that his kid that had special needs was not going to be taxed on the assets that he had. Think about this. This lady has special needs, but he has $1 million worth of assets. So if she's using one of those assets, word on the street was that she should have been taxed on using that asset. Not no more. Mitt Romney made sure in 1976 that the spendthrift clause allows beneficiaries to use the assets without them being taxed. That introduced the trust fund baby. So now kids can now benefit from their father's assets without paying no taxes. Okay? Donald Trump came in and did the blind trust. We'll talk about that here in a minute. Next slide. And this is why they're bragging about it. Yahoo Finance had the nerve to show us that Amazon don't pay no taxes. They putting it in right in your face. How a $1 billion company ain't paying no taxes, and you sitting up here making $40, $80, $100,000, and you paying taxes. And they sitting up here bragging about it, right? Well, we had to figure out what was really going on. Come to find out, like John said, Amazon don't own the assets. They trust owns them. See? In this model, they made $11.2 billion. That's all ate up in, again, a lease. All right? Next slide. So they legally reduced their tax liability legally, y'all. There's no gray area here. A lease is a 100% tax deduction. Okay? There's no capital gain tax when they sell the asset. All right? This is legally and lawfully done. Next slide. So Jeff Bezos still files a personal tax return. He still files Amazon still files a business tax return. Right? The trust still files a tax return. Right? But they have never been flagged for any type of omission. Next slide. Right? Because tax evasion is, again, improper deductions, false allocations, improper credits that you get. Next slide. But I want to make sure you understand that the IRS makes it very clear that actual tax avoidance is not a criminal offense. It's civil matter, which means you can negotiate with the IRS, right? Okay? Now, the problem with negotiating with the IRS is this. If you got assets in your name, are they going to negotiate with you? No. You're going to learn the hard way. But if you don't have nothing, listen to me, y'all. You don't have nothing in your name, right? I had a client that had nothing in their name, owed the IRS $111,000. Right? Guess what they settled for? $24,000. Why? Ain't nothing in their name. But you got one house, come on, man, that's in your name, that got a little equity. You think they gonna settle with you? Oh no, Doc. They take you for every penny. They're gonna add interest on top of interest on top of interest on top of interest because you think that owning assets in your name is the way to do it. No. Okay, next slide. So the history of this trust goes all the way back to 1999 and further. We got the one out of Washington, D.C. It's been copyrighted over 3 different times. This is the ultimate asset protection vehicle. It's going to actually protect your assets and actually lower your tax liability. Next slide. It's irrevocable. It's non-grantor. It's complex. This allows you to stay in control as the compliance officer and the trustee. And again, allows you to discriminate money when you want to, if you want to. Next slide. Again, we're going to reduce your tax liability big time because, again, we're going to show you how to maintain most of your assets in the trust. If you can maintain the property in the trust, you no longer have to take the money for the property, okay? If you can maintain a lot of your assets in the trust, you can have the trust lower your tax liability. Next slide. Again, we want to show you how to actually lower the tax liability by allowing the trust to purchase assets. Let me give you an example. Everybody wants to own things, but that's not the way to do it. So if you have $25,000, if I gave you $25,000, it's going to be taxable to you. Did you know that? Or I can just let the trust buy whatever you needed for $25,000, and it's not taxable to nobody. But you still can use the asset. See the difference? See, we so used to buying things in our name that we think that's the right way to do it. No. Let the instrument buy the assets that's not going to be taxed so that you can benefit from it. Next slide. Okay? Businesses, again, here's an example of a company made $1.2 million. They were happy at first, but they were sad at the end. Why? Because when they saw how much taxes they were going to have to give up, they was like, oh, my Lord. 37%, we made 1.2. We got to give 1/3 of that away? Not 1 year. Every year? Nah, man, we ain't doing that. Let me tell you what we're going to do. First of all, let's go and do an assessment on your assets. Everybody say assessment. You need to know what's in the house. The sermon was, what is in your house? You need to know the value of what you have, okay? And that's why we take the time to do a detailed asset sheet on you so we know exactly what you are valued at, okay? Because if you don't know your value, you don't know what to do. This trucking company had, again, 18-wheelers. It had $1.5 million in assets. So what we did was we sold those assets to a business trust. So now this 18-wheeler LLC company is protected, okay? They're protected. If they get sued, there's nothing they can take. Again, on the other hand of this, we leased those assets back to the actual LLC for $1 million. Now, in this case, $1 million lease helped this company out big time because they went from making 1.2 to only $200,000. See that? 100% tax deduction on the lease. Now, they still got $1 million in their trust account to buy more assets. Do y'all see that? Okay? And there's nobody paying taxes nowhere. No taxes on the trust, no taxes on the business, and no taxes on the individual. Next slide. Yes.
So everything, let me get this straight. So let's say I start a business. So everything should be in the trust. So it should not be a business trust, but it can still be an individual trust. It doesn't have to be a business trust like you talked about.
So we separate assets. We're not going to put our family assets in the same trust with our business assets.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
We're going to leave them separate, right?
So here's my next question. Next question. So this information right now, I know that it's getting late, so I don't want to worry the saints. So will this?
We're going to come back in the morning.
Okay.
Yep. So we're going to table it right here. This is the slide that John wanted me to get to. Okay? This is a slide that shows you that as a spendthrift clause in your trust, you get to write these things off. All right? Now, medical. As you get older, saints, we have to go to the doctor more. But you don't get to write those off on your personal taxes. You only get to write off a certain percentage. So in your older years, it makes sense to where you can be in a vehicle where you can write off 100% of all your medical expenses. Am I right? Okay? Contributions. Let me make sure you understand this. There's something called a standard deduction. Has anybody ever heard of that on your taxes? Standard deduction is $29,000. That means if you give the church $2,000, I hate to tell you this, it doesn't count because you took the standard deduction. Does that make sense, everybody, what I'm saying? You think you didn't gave the receipt to your accounting lady. Well, it don't matter because you didn't go over $29,000. You took the standard deduction. Does everybody see that? But what happens, instead of doing that, we give the money to the family trust. Listen to me. We're not giving the money to the family trust. We're going to loan it to the family trust. And the family trust pays the tithe. Now the trust gets a 100% write-off, so we get the best of both worlds. We get the standard deduction on our personal taxes, and we get an actual church deduction on our family trust tithe. See? We don't know this, though. And give $100,000 to Ephesus, and you get to write it off, okay? And again, who's going to send their kids to college in here? All right, well, if you're going to send them to college, guess what? Doesn't it make sense to write off the room and board? How you think these kids are going to Harvard, y'all, and Yale? Well, the trust is paying for it. 100% write-off. You can't write that off on your personal taxes, okay? How many people going on vacation? You going on vacation, Pastor? Listen to me. As long as you go to a museum where you go on vacation at, it's a 100% write-off. You cannot do that on your personal taxes, y'all. So how are these people taking family vacations? Well, as long as they take them and go to a museum, it's a 100% write-off. The things that you're spending money on daily, you're not being able to write it off. What white folks have basically mastered is getting their money on the back end, Pastor. See, we don't know nothing about that. We always want it on the front end. But there's more money on the back end. Okay? What is the back end money? Called credits. Things that come off your income, right? Travel to a museum, interest on a credit card. Who got a personal credit card in here? Okay, and every time you use it, Lord have mercy, the credit score go down because you're going over the utilization, right? Right? And then on top of that, Pastor, they charging us interest. And then on top of that, right, we don't even get to write the interest off. Can you imagine if you are a beneficiary of your own trust, you designate a credit card, you get to write the interest off, man, on that credit card. This is either, if you look at these benefits, this is either for a trust fund baby or some person that's retired. You see this? Okay? Telephone bill, life insurance premium, home expenses. Let me explain this one to you real quick. You can only write off your interest if you have a mortgage. Does everybody know that? Who has a mortgage in here? You can only write off the what? The interest. That's it. On your personal taxes. In the trust, we get to write off the property taxes. We get to write off the interest. We get to write off the insurance. We get to write off the maintenance and the repairs. That's a big difference, ain't it? So when a person come cut the grass, that's maintenance. See? That's maintenance. When you change the floor out, that's maintenance. Anything you do to that property is maintenance. How do you think they have the people that's working in the home, the maids? What is that? Maintenance. That's a write-off, y'all. Again, another way to look at your write-offs. And then vehicle gas and postage, this is an instrument that's going to allow you to get your money on the back end. Stay protected and build generational wealth. All right? So we're going to invite you to come back tomorrow morning. At what time we come in? 10 o'clock? 9:30. 10. 9:30. You know, we start late. 9:30. We'll be here at 9:30 so we can start on time, right? And I'm going to show you the rest of the benefits of this trust and show you how to get in it, all right? Does everybody have a way to look at their credit scores? You know how to look at your credit score? You know how to look at yours, Pastor? Everybody know how to look at their credit score. Everybody should be looking at your credit every day. Every day, okay? Because your credit is the way to build generational wealth. You're gonna need it, all right? Okay? Any other questions? Any other questions, y'all? Any questions? Come on, questions.
Get the app, My FICO. Get the app. It's an app. You can look at your credit.
My FICO.
$32.
I use Identity IQ. My FICO will work. You need to see all 3 of your credit bureaus. Not just one. Okay, all 3. Okay? All right, and we need to show you how to leverage credit. So what did the sermon say today, y'all?
Get your house in order.
There is a time to borrow. There is a time to borrow. Okay? And when you have the resources, that's when things start happening for you. You know what I've noticed about this estate? When people get into it, everything now starts falling in place for them. Why? Because your house is in order. Right? It's something about your subconscious fighting your conscious and saying, hey, I don't want to make $100 million. That's what your subconscious is saying. Because we know we ain't got our house in order. But your conscious is saying, I want to make 100,000, 100 million. And it's a conflict. You got to get them on the same page, right? And so what we're trying to do is basically make sure you're on the same page. Thank you guys for your time. We're going to come back and see you guys tomorrow at 9:30 sharp.
Okay, 9:30 sharp in the morning. That's what time you can start arriving. So in case you have veggie bacon on your mind and sausage on your mind, then come on out. Now, I don't know if those of you who eat meat, if they do the real thing. I don't think they're going to do the real deal. We have a creed against those kind of things at the Adventist churches.
No.
So we had to literally vote that at our church because we had some people who were having some very carnivorous feelings and thoughts, and we had to go and legislate that away. But anyway, so yes, we can work on that for you. Thank y'all so much for engagement. Now, you wanted to know the quintessential question of how much does this cost and what does that look like for you. And so the average cost of these trusts is anywhere, the lowest is about $55,000 per trust. That's the lowest in this country, okay? Until we came along, all right? So ours is half of that. It's $25,000 per trust, okay? But for Adventists, our Adventist family, we knock off $5,000 off of that in this year at least anyway. So it's $20,000. So if you get 2 trusts, it's $40K. And if you get 3, it's $75,000. But watch this. 3 for the price of 4. We get 4 trusts that we set up for $75K. So instead of paying $100,000 for 4 trusts, it's only $75K. And we also throw in the capital holding company and the S Corp, which most people need to get the 4 trusts, okay? Now, you have 3 of your members in this church that has those 3 trusts, those 4 trusts, all of them in the capital holding company and the S Corp. Can I get a witness? Is there a witness in here? Who was those witnesses? Who are these people? Come here, Montoya. Come here, Montoya. Come here, Montoya. Come here. This is my sister right here. She's one of y'all trust holders in this company, in this church. Montoya has all 4 trusts and a capital holding company and an S Corp, and we're proud of her. My wife and I are very proud of her. So this is not blackmail information that I'm standing up here hugging her. All right. All right. So, and Ms. Mullins, would you stand, please? Curtis Sting Adams, would you stand, please? And Ms. Goodlow, we're working on yours, so you may as well stand too, stewardship director. You can't be a stewardship director and not have a trust in this church. What's wrong with you? Stand on up here. All right, so Ms. Goodlow as well. These are the 4 people in Ephesus Church who has one of these trusts. So in case y'all think that this is just something that out there in La La Land that nobody is taking advantage of, think again. These folks have taken advantage of it, and we have the trust books in the car right now. They came down here to personally deliver it to them. They have their 4 trusts and their capital holding company, and you want to know how you can get that. And by the way, we do discounts. So our Adventist brothers and sisters, thank you, Tori. Our Adventist brothers and sisters, we knock off that amount. So if you get the whole estate at $65K for all 4 trusts, plus a capital holding company and an S Corp, folks, that is not going to last. Trust me, that's not. You have a very small window to get that price for those in there, okay? And when you do, the whole thing is a whole tax write-off. $65K tax written off on your side of it on the next year. Can't beat it, okay? You want to? I'm telling you right now, that may sound expensive to some of y'all, but I'm telling you, that is cheap. If you're in the world of trust that we're in, oh, we struggle. Are y'all listening to me? I want y'all to hear this. We're struggling to keep it at that price. Our attorney and everyone has already told us you need to raise the price. Y'all listen to me. Even for us to give our Adventist brothers and sisters a $10,000 discount for all four of these trusts is just not heard of in the marketplace. Y'all listening to me? Now, if you only need one trust, family trust, $25,000, which we make $20,000 for you, it is doable. Trust me, it's doable. And you'll see that because we require a down payment. You can put $5,000 down, and we can work out the payments in another way. There's another thing. If you have a credit score that is at least 680, if you have a credit score that's 680, and you have no blemishes, and you're under 35% usage on your personal credit side, guess what? We can go after business funding for you through a business that we set up for you, a confirmation. Actually, it's a consulting firm that we set up for you. It's a small business with no blemishes on it because it's a new business. So we set that new business up for you. So through your S Corp or through your capital holding company, we set that up for you. And that allows you to go after the business funding, which is up to $150,000 in business credit cards, which you can have usage of, which you don't have to pay the interest of for at least 6 to 18 months. And also, it allows you eligible for a $150,000 business loan for that same business as well. So it's a way that you can get a small business funded to start it out. If you're an entrepreneur and want to get there, I saw the entrepreneur hands of some people earlier, so that can start you out in that way as well. It's one way of having that engagement. Get your trust all paid out, and guess what? Use that as an invoice to be able to go after the funding that you need. It takes around about 3 to 6 months process, but if you have that criteria that I just told you, you can have that within 30 to 60 days. You can have all the funding that you need. If you have a 800 or better credit score, a 680 or better credit score, no blemishes, 35%, under 35% usage, then you can qualify that on the platform for that automatically. If you don't have that, then guess what? We have a credit repair program that can help to bless you to get your house in order through your credit. Get your personal credit together, then get your business credit together, and then allow you to be able to go after the funding that way as well. Okay? Does that make sense to everybody? Raise your hand if that makes sense. Okay. All right. So I don't want to hear from anybody, and I don't want to hear it rumored by anybody, because word get around quickly around the Adventist circle. Y'all know that a lie spreads around the church before the truth gets its boots on. A lie will go around the world before the truth gets its boots on, okay? So don't leave out of here telling you that I don't tell you some weird stuff, all right? I told you the truth and nothing but the truth, so help all y'all, God. All right, so the fact of the matter is that you can have this. This is obtainable for you. I don't care if you're on a fixed income. This is obtainable to you because I'm telling you, ultimately, you're going to pay the price. I mean, I'm telling you right now, you get a stroke or a heart attack or something like that, or you can't function right in your head, and you have to go into health care right away. Caught the family off guard. And you go into health care right away, and you need Medicaid right away. This happened to my mom, y'all, and I'm going to tell a personal testimony. I'm going to close with this. My mom, on Thanksgiving Day 2 years ago, she had seen all the grandkids and great-grandkids that day. And that evening, I just left her house 10 minutes ago saying, I love you, Mom, hugs, kisses, everything like that. My wife I wasn't home for 10 minutes, and we got a call. Mama's face is twisting. She was having a stroke. Call 911. Call 911. 911 came. And as we got back, I got there in about 5 minutes, half the time it took me to go away. Got back there, the ambulance was picking her up and taking her, putting her in an ambulance. Went to the hospital. I went there to my mom, and we was talking and conversating with her, going into the hospital, into the ER. Got in there. Mom was conscious, talking, and then she threw up. After throwing up, she came back. We cleaned her up and stuff. And these are the last words my mom responded to for me. Mom, are you okay? And she shook her head, no, I'm not okay. She fell back like this and went into a Pons stroke, a double Pons stroke. If you don't know anything about the brain, it's at the base of your brain. When one pond, most people, 99% of people have just one pond that is affected. My mom was in the 1%. Both ponds were affected. That made her become a quadriplegic. She couldn't move not a single arm, leg, finger, muscle for the rest of the 9 months of her life until she passed 9 months later to the day. Couldn't move a muscle, couldn't talk, couldn't see right, couldn't hear right, all in instants of seconds. You don't have the time you think you have. Get your house in order. Don't wait for some crisis to happen. It's too late. Once it's done, it's done. Okay? I'm not saying that to scare anybody. I'm saying it because that's the reality. If COVID did not teach us this, if COVID did not teach you, do you know I hate the privilege of not being there with my mom the last 3 weeks of her life because I got COVID, y'all, real bad. And I thought my own life was in the balance. And I believe that I wasn't going to make it. My oxygen level had dropped significantly. And I was thinking I'm going to be dead before my mom. And my mom outlived a lot of people in the 9 months that died of COVID. During that same 9 months, she survived without getting COVID. For that whole 9 months, she was in the hospital, rehab. But she had 2 houses that she owned, and she couldn't get Medicaid unless we liquidated her homes. We decided not to liquidate her homes, and we paid $12,000 a month for her rehabilitation care for the family. And between us, we took out loans and everything we could to keep sustaining her, to pay for her care, and still had to pay for her care a whole year and a half after she was gone. We still been paying for the bill. We finally paid it off. But I want you to understand that that's reality. Of all of us live some kind of way like that. If you're not taking care of a kid with disability or an elderly parent or an aging sister, brother, sister, uncle, cousin, grandma, grandpa, if you're not taking care of one of them, it's coming your way. If it ain't got to your doorstep yet, it's coming your way. Please know that. We plead with you. We beg of you. Know your case and do something about it while you can before it's too late. We had a will by this church, Grace Temple, for my mom before she passed. We had medical power of attorney and the rest of that. It was only on a will. Regretfully, I didn't have the knowledge of a trust at that time. So I had to go with what we had. If I had to do it all over again, absolutely we would have the trust instead. But it was too late. Don't wait till it's too late. Warning comes before destruction. I don't know who we've helped this weekend. God had us come here from a simple meeting between Montoya and Valerie and Curtis Ding out in the parking lot, and we're back here 5-6 months later. Here we are doing this seminar workshop because of that encounter and for nothing more. And then the invitation with Sister Lowe. Thank you, Sister Lowe, so much for bringing us here. Thank you, Pastor, for bringing us here. We appreciate that. I want you to each, this is our plan for the rest of the weekend while we're here. We're going to close out with this right now. I told you everything you need to know. We told you pretty much the core of everything that you need to know. Now it's only a matter of how can you structure yourself to afford to do it, and how can you arrange 401k, whatever it is you got to do to be able to get the funds to do it or put down a down payment before it's too late before this year. We can get you set up almost right away. And if you get it done this week, if you put the down payment down, we can get everything developed for you, and it'll be done for you and be delivering that to you before the end of the year. If you want to get it done while we're here, you can get that done. We have individual consultations, y'all. After breakfast in the morning, we're going to hang around here till 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, as long as it takes. Is for your engagement and for your privilege and your blessing. It doesn't get anything to us. It's for you, for your benefit. If you want, we're here. And we're here to help you, to bless you. If it's no more than coming by to consult with us, to find out in your situation, what do you need to make this happen for you and your family? What resources do you have? What resources and plans do we offer and discounts that we've already talked to you about, and how to make that possible for you and your house? okay? And if you know any family members or anything like that that could engage us or need to come back by to invite them, husbands, wives, spouses, whatever the case might be, please invite them to come. We can explain it further to them as well, and whatever engagement we need beyond that point, okay? We're willing to do that while we're here, okay? My hotel spot runs out at 11 o'clock tomorrow, so I'm not going to sleep in, but don't make me sleep in. You gotta wait, y'all. Come here. I told y'all, like San Antonio, don't mess with me, all right? All right, but we're not here for me. We're here for y'all. So we can help you. That's why we're here. So does anybody need help? While you're here, do you need the help? Okay? Do you need the advice? Okay? I'm going to tell you right now, if you're waiting on some financial planner, the financial planner has no idea what you're talking about. So those of you who got in your mind, you're going to go talk to your CPA or your financial planner, forget it. They don't have no idea what you're talking about. Okay? They can't give you the proper advice. They just can't. Some of them found that out, right? Did you find that out, Matoria? They don't have a clue, y'all. Listen to me. I don't care how smart they are, how long they've been a CPA, how long they've been a financial planner, 10, 15, 20. It doesn't matter. They don't have a clue of this. They're not trained this way. They only trained in the state statutory CPA that they're trained in. That's it. They're not trained in this kind of law. This is above their grade, okay? This was never intended for them to do with this. This was for multimillionaires and billionaires, okay? It has nothing to do with the people at that level of income, all right? Is that okay? No, the financial planner is not the going to want to. The one to go to, his name is Russell Thompson and John Washington with Succeed Consulting Firm. You're going to get the best info for your afro, even if you don't have one. Anyway, all right, any other questions? All right, go ahead. Oh, see, you're messing up stuff. What's wrong with him? He asked the question, how do you get into the business and do that? Do we have a business plan with that, Russell? We have a presenters class, y'all. We have a presenters class, and we're developing 10 presenters for every state in the United States to be able to train in presenting this information and stuff, and they do very well. So, yes, we're doing that. All right? So if you're interested in that, that's a sidebar we'll talk about tomorrow. I can think of some professional, dapper-looking people that might fit the bill. I don't know who that is, though. Who might that be? Any ideas? All right, anyway. If y'all want to know about that, we can talk about that individually, but let's talk about this other first. Let's get your house in order first, because you can't talk about anything that you're not doing. All right? Okay, any questions at all? Final word. All right. I hope to see everybody at brunch in the morning, as many as possible. All excuses aside, just do your thing. Again, let me tell you up front, we're not here, y'all, to make a sale. We're here to help you out, facilitate the opportunity for you to get your house in order and to be blessed. That's what we're here for. God has brought us here as advisors and to advise you, share with you, show you what it takes to do this. And then if you need to engage in some financial things that you still need to work out in time, we'll work through that process with you until you can obtain what you need to obtain to get your house in order. Is that fair to everybody? Is that fair? Okay, so don't treat us like we're some salesman from Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, here to make a sale, because that ain't why we came here. We came here to be a blessing to you, and I hope it has been for you, to show you a difference of what you need to know in order to assist you with getting your house in order the way it needs to be and the way you can legally do it and live like the rich. And I guarantee you, hear me, when you do this thing the right way, I don't care where you are in your position, you give us a year and a half, 2 years, and you'll never work again. Did you hear what I just said? You do this the right way, a year and a half, I don't care where you are in your retirement, where you are in your job, you do this the right way, you'll never work again after a year and a half or two. You'll live out of trust the rest of your life, and you'll live very well. How do the rich do it? Medicare is only going to take care of you from 8 to 5.
That's right.
At 5 o'clock, baby, they go home. And whatever you left to do until 7:59 the next morning, whether you got to be in diapers until the next morning or whatever, you're going to be in diapers and soil till they get with you the next morning if you ain't got nobody to take care of you between that time and that time, right? But watch this. With the trust, though, You can hire a personal care person to come in and clean the home and come in and take care of you. From when that person from Medicaid leave you, from that time to the next morning, that person from the trust can take care of you. And guess what, y'all? It's a 100% tax write-off. Did I say that? So regardless of what Medicaid and Medicare is doing, you got a way to get health care. And guess what? Any health care, medical, that you spend in the course of a year is a 100% write-off. Okay? That's all your medical premiums, all your co-pays and yo-pays and y'all pay and somebody pay, 100% write-off. Okay? You cannot get that in your social. You cannot get that in your business, but you can get it through the spendthrift clause of trust. And he showed you the spendthrift clause. Did y'all see that? Y'all see y'all 12 disciples? That's who's going to follow y'all. Your 12 disciples, those 12 things on there, the 100 things. Let's stand for a closing word of prayer. Pastor, thank you so much again. Look to see y'all in the morning. We're going to start at 10 o'clock sharp. And what we're going to do is just a brief overview in the morning at 10 o'clock, and the rest of it is breakfast and consultation with y'all individually. We'll have some offices. We'll segregate individually. We'll talk to you individually about your situation and your circumstances. Is that fair to everybody? Okay, give me a show of hands because I'm just bold enough to say, give me a show of hands who might be here in the morning. If you're going to be here in the morning and bring somebody with you, okay, don't come alone. Ask somebody to come along with you, and let's come and eat up this breakfast food as much as possible. So we're going to descend on here like locusts in the morning, and we're going to eat up everything you got.
All right. Everyone say, praise the Lord, hallelujah. Do you have a good day? Amen. Before our pastor comes up, do y'all remember Sister Audrey, our queen? Okay, you cannot exit that door. You have to exit right here. Just this one time, Pastor. Is that okay? There is some deliciousness. Oh, my goodness. Please don't. Yes, please don't. Please don't leave that door. Matter of fact, I'm going to go run back there and not let you come through, okay? Because Audrey has something for all of y'all just to take home. Just take that, sandwiches, little stuff. Put it in the refrigerator, and you'll thank her tomorrow or the next day, you know. Okay, thanks, Pastor.
Thank you. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we give a hand a cup of praise for our presenters this evening? Powerful. We did not have a devotional thought, but I want to leave this with you. Deuteronomy 28. If you fully obey the Lord your God and carefully follow all his commands I give you today, the Lord your God will set you high above all the nations on the earth. All these blessings will come on you in company if you obey the Lord your God. You will be blessed in the city and blessed in the country. Who wants to be blessed? But you got to fully obey. Somebody say obey. Since you said obey, Wednesday night, 6:30, same time, amen. We have Bible study. Obey, you just said it. Amen, that was a setup, but praise God. So let's pray. Father, in the name of Jesus, we thank you, God, for this information, for revelation. Father, you want to bless your people from the head to the soles of their feet. So, God, as we continue with this information, God, I pray that we grow, that seeds are planted, so that you will be glorified, that you will be edified, and we can be a blessing not only to our family, but to our churches and communities. So, God, we thank you, praise you, we honor you, and these things we ask in your name. Amen. But before we go, I want to just reiterate what the man of God said. Remember, pastors don't make a lot of money, so amen. Have a good evening.
Two 6777.